that they were trying to propagate will not stand. And when they were trying to put the same lies in terms of their countermeasures, since they don't have that capacity of eyes in the sky as we have,
Yes.
all their claims of having carried out damage in India fell apart. So as it ended on maybe 10th or 11th, when the DGMOs came on board and started showing what we had exactly done, and when people started comparing the DGMO's press conference to the DGISPR's press conference, the difference between what India did and what Pakistan did came out loud and clear. I am sure the population in Pakistan is now understood that the army is not putting out truth in the system.
Absolutely. The
They,
missive by Pakistan lacked any amount of evidence, and that's a point fairly made, Lieutenant General. Let me also bring in Major Jolly on this. Major Jolly, Lieutenant General was mentioning about how there was media that was taken at the time of the past attacks between India and Pakistan. This time around, too, that happened when India launched Operation Sindoor, where there was a strategic team of global media that was taken along the line of control to suggest that there is a fair amount of damage that has been inflicted from the Indian side on not terrorist establishments, but on madarsas, on students, on civilian population. At least that was the narrative push that was coming in from Pakistan, something that was amply supported by the Pakistani military. This time we're talking about relocation attempts, a desperation by the military in Pakistan, and they're looking at places like Balochistan. What does one make of this?
So, thanks for inviting me to your show, and good afternoon to General Ayer. What I see is that this is a panic state for them. You know, they are totally in panic. Generally, how do you defend a country? There's a wall of air defense. Your air force is in skies. So since there's no land war happened, so we'll talk about these two. You send your planes, the air defense takes them out, or the air force takes them out, and vice versa. Both of the systems have failed drastically. So they know there is no wall defending us anymore. Imagine the state of the soldier there who knows that Indian missiles or Indian Air Force can come down anytime on us and rain whatever missiles they want. And there is nobody on top of us to defend us. Because land forces depend heavily on the missile cover and the Air Force to stop, defend you. A normal infantry soldier standing in trench cannot fight an aircraft. But once you know that has moved, right? So only thing left for them is to move around, run around, helter-skelter, and find new places to hide. Because they know every installation, every cantonment, every location has been mapped by us. And the precision hit that we have given them, we have shown them that doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter how secure you feel, we will hit them, we will hit you whenever we want with whatever you want. And just to add to that these 9 terror attacks which were fired, right, which were taken on, there were 3-4 hits on each, and it was announced that we use scalp missiles and all. There was a report yesterday from Pakistan which said we have taken down 1 scalp missile. If I was Pakistani general, I wouldn't even mention it out of shame. Actually, we fired 50 missiles, and you were able to take out 1. So fine, we grant you that much, but have some shame mentioning that. So we have pure total dominance. If this air defense and air force, if you imagine, it's like 2 boxers in the ring. What India has is Mike Tyson, and what Pakistan has is a novice boxer from street. So they've been getting thrashed every day, and they do not have answer to that now, except for hiding. And the second answer they have is propaganda. When you can't really fight, all you do is shout loudly and start singing and dancing around to show we are all right. So that's all they're doing right now.
Right. Major Jolly, do stay on with us. Also, Lieutenant General Arya, I'll come back to you in just a bit. We have got some more exclusive piece of information for our viewers here on CNN News 18, as we are also now learning that even as Indian-Pakistan conflict raged and subsequently reached a ceasefire, China indulged in a diplomatic balancing act. While it announced support for the ceasefire, Beijing maintained silence on terrorism. China's refusal to acknowledge Pakistan's role in terrorism is a strategy. Top government sources have also revealed that China publicly endorsed the India-Pakistan ceasefire but avoided direct statement on India's demands. It did not make an attempt to hold Pakistan accountable for cross-border terrorism. Finance Minister Wang Yi's calls to Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar and also India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval emphasized China's role in facilitating dialogue, as all of this aligns with China's broader image as a global peacemaker, something that US as well is doing. On the other hand, world knows that China has a strategic tilt towards Pakistan, as stability in India and Pakistan is critical for China's Belt and Road Initiative. This is also, remember, important for China-Pakistan economic corridor. My colleague Siddhant is now with us on the broadcast. Siddhant, we have seen, and we were just mentioning about how there were attempts and possibly a thought and conjecture being made on whether or not the army headquarters are going to be shifted to places like Balochistan. We do know how there is a civil war that is also happening where the BLA is on Pakistani army's neck and also the administration's neck. And one important aspect to note here is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC. Now, with this posturing that's coming in from China, how does one read this?
Yes, that's right. That's right. In fact, this is what Manoj Gupta has sent. In fact, China's public endorsement of India-Pakistan ceasefire, but avoiding direct statement on India's demands there. China has not made attempts to hold Pakistan accountable for cross-border terrorism so far in its releases. In fact, Foreign Minister Wang Yi was in touch with Foreign Minister Ishaq and Mr. Ajit Doval and emphasized on India's role in facilitating dialogue. China wanted to prevent escalation. This aligns with China's broader image as a global peacemaker. Also, China works very hard to get a good global image. Perhaps, whole of the world is right now anti-China. There is grouping, perhaps, where countries don't see China in a good light. So, for the sake of image makeover, perhaps China was making statements for an understanding to be reached between the two sides. Now, by urging both sides to cement the ceasefire momentum, China seeks to project neutrality. On the other hand, world knows China has a strategic tilt towards Pakistan. Stability in India and Pakistan is critical for China's Belt and Road Initiative. This is important for China-Pakistan economic corridor. A conflict between India and Pakistan risks disrupting secret $62 billion infra projects which China has built. In fact, work is still going on. China has consistently shielded Pakistan at multilateral forums like UN Security Council. In fact, China has held, China had vetoed the proposals made by Indian side to sanction the dreaded terrorists. Perhaps we are aware about China's position. So China always blocked efforts to sanction Pakistan-based terror groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. Publicly condemning Pakistan terror link would spoil the all-weather China-Pakistan alliance. So on the face, they want to look neutral. They want to look at as a peacemaker. They want
Siddhant, do stay on with us. We are getting an important piece of breaking news now. We are learning that today early morning, Prime Minister Narendra Modi went to the Adampur Air Base. We are putting out these pictures. Remember, this is the second largest Air Force base that the country has. He has been briefed by the Air Force personnel there, and he also interacted with our brave Jawans. That detail has been brought to us by Aman Sharma, our colleague, who's giving us a sense of how important and strategic this visit by the Prime Minister really is. Yes, Aman.
Development, the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, early today morning was at the Adampur Air Base in Punjab, and this is very, very important because Pakistan had tried to target the Adampur Air Base with a ballistic missile, their Fateh missile, and it was spoiled in the air itself. The Adampur Air Base remained completely safe, and this was the trigger. This was the trigger that led India to launch strikes on Pakistani air bases, 11 of them, and destroy many of them, cause heavy damage to the Pakistani air bases. The Prime Minister today early morning, Adampur Air Base is just a bit away from Jalandhar, and the Prime Minister flying to the Adampur Air Base there, interacting with our Air Force warriors, our Air Force pilots, the bravehearts who have launched this fight against Pakistan, the Prime Minister. And these pictures are very, very telling because these pictures show that the Adampur Air Base was completely unharmed. The Prime Minister has gone there and taken a stock for himself. He has interacted with the people there and with the Air Force Jawans there. And this is very, very important, as I said, because the Adampur Air Base towards which this missile was launched by Pakistan, the Fateh missile, on the night of May 9th. This is what led to Mr. Narendra Modi take the huge decision that Indian Air Force and our BrahMos missiles will be launched towards Pakistan's Air Force bases. We attacked their Rawalpindi Air Base, the Islamabad Air Base, the Lahore Air Base, the Karachi Air Base, the Skardu Air Base. Multiple air bases of Pakistan were attacked, and this is what brought Pakistan to its knees, and it went to the US and then called up India asking for a ceasefire. So I think after the Prime Minister's big nation address to the nation last night, this particular visit now to the Adampur Air Base is extremely significant because it sends out a very strong message by India that, our Pakistan could not harm any of our air bases, all their drones, all their missiles. As the Prime Minister said yesterday, हवा में तिनके की तरह बिखर गए, कोई भी target पे land नहीं हो पाया. While when India launched its response, it not only damaged several of its air bases, it demolished Pakistan's morale. We broke this story yesterday as well that when the attack on the Noor Khan Air Base happened, the Pakistani Army Chief Asim Munir hid in a bunker for almost 2 hours, and now Pakistan is even thinking about changing its headquarters from Rawalpindi. So these are big developments. I think the Prime Minister's visit after his address yesterday also.
Right.
Hailing the valor of our Air Force, our Army and our Navy, and now Prime Minister visiting the very important Adampur Air Base in Punjab.
Right, absolutely. Aman, do stay on with us. We also have our defense correspondent Akash Sharma join us on the broadcast. Akash, this is an important development. Also, posturing a very important one, which is much required for our brave Jawans at the moment, of a sense of reassurance by the Prime Minister. And that's how significant this visit is, because ever since those pictures of the missile was shown in the Dogri village near the Adampur Air Base, there was a lot of conjecture that was being drawn out of it.
Right, Griha, Adampur, air base is one of our frontline air bases for both defensives and offensives. And, Aman was pointing out that how it is in Punjab, very close to very close to the border. And it was time and again, attempted by Pakistan. In fact, they came out with several sort of claims that how they have destroyed several air defenses or radars within, Adampur Air Base. But, it was not true, and it was clarified by the armed forces as well. Adampur is one airbase that houses, our MiG-29s and several other fighters. And it is very much available in public that how MiG-29s are operated from Adampur. And this is the reason why possibly Pakistan, was trying to, in fact, target the Adampur Air Base. And in fact, they were not successful though, and this was the time when in retaliation, in fact, India carried out several sort of precision hit to their air bases, including Noor Khan in Rawalpindi. We know that how Adampur is important for Indian Air Force, and Prime Minister visiting there is sending a larger message to all those, personnel who were somewhere, part of this Operation Sindoor. We know that how these visits are important for the sort of motivation that is required for the troops, and Prime Minister has visited, the Adampur Air Base, sending out a larger message to the troops. We have seen that how yesterday he said that Operation Sindoor is new normal. We know that how air activities have happened in the past few days, specifically when, India has in fact that Indian armed forces have destroyed all these air threats that were coming towards, the air bases like Adampur, and there were several sort of claims by Pakistan. Prime Minister has visited Adampur in the morning today, and it is one of the most important bases for Indian armed forces, including several others, very close to Pakistan border, and one of our frontline air bases, Griha.
Absolutely. Do stay on with us, Akash. We also have Payal Mehta join us. Payal, we were just putting out that picture. I request my producers to once again flash that picture of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's, where he is standing next to an aircraft which says, "Why enemy pilots don't sleep well." That's how important and strategic the Adampur Air Base is for the country. A reassuring message there by the Prime Minister, an important one. Was this decided? Was it in the pipeline while he was discussing in the various meetings that he was having at his residence at 7 LK?
The Prime Minister Griha is known to spring in a lot of surprises, and this time around it's no different, given the fact that, he addressed the nation yesterday, gave a message to the nation saying that we are united in our fight against terrorism and we will teach Pakistan a lesson each time that they try to neutralize as well. But these visuals must be very, very reassuring, especially for those of our forces who've been, on the ground for the last 14 days plus. They are the ones who have actually been trying to do their best to teach Pakistan a lesson. Every time that Pakistan needled us, remember, every time that Pakistan tried to attack us in the air, it was countered very effectively by our armed forces as well. None of the drones that was thrown in from Pakistan even met with any success. Even though claims within Pakistan was that they destroyed our air bases, and a military equipment, which is none of this is actually true. So obviously the Prime Minister over there going in a way, meeting these personnel, expressing his gratitude on behalf of 140 crore Indians. And those visuals are very, very reassuring. Him standing in the middle of the entire contingent of the Indian Air Force, people over there, he's speaking to them. He can be seen, sharing a laughter with them. Of course, it's a very, very calm and composed country right now, because we know that we have the armed forces who are capable of taking Pakistan on, and in fact seeking a protection no matter what the circumstances really is. And the IAF has in a way, Griya, shown its power and might in a big way yet again after the strikes that we've seen in Balakot and Uri as well. But this time around, it was a lot about the air fights that were actually there. Dog fights were engaged with. We've seen multiple rounds of drones being fired by Pakistan, India countering it. And the S-400 standing like a, literally like a Sudarshan Chakra, dispelling all the army, all the enemy drones, and actually keeping India safe, even if it was very, very troubling skies for at least a couple of days.
Absolutely, and that was the kind of propaganda that came in from Pakistan, where they had claimed that they have ended up destroying an S-400 at the Adampur air base, something that was fact-checked here in India, something that has been constantly being done by the Press Information Bureau. And right now, this reassuring visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's at the Adampur air base. We also have our colleague Pallavi Ghosh join us on the broadcast. Pallavi, very important visit, and we have to particularly note here on how the Prime Minister is not indulging the opposition in the domestic politics. He's prioritizing what is the need of the hour, that is to be standing in unison with our armed forces in the face of the escalation that had come in from Pakistan, and also as the military level talks continue to happen between India and Pakistan. This important and strategic trip to the Adampur air base speaks volumes. Pallavi, are you there with us? Okay, don't seem to have Pallavi, but this is an important visit of Prime Ministers to the Adampur air base. Happened today early morning as we put out these pictures, interacting with our brave Jawans, with the army personnel at the Adampur air base. Remember, this is the second largest air base that the country boasts of, and that's how significant this trip of the Prime Minister's really is. We continue to have with us our guests, Lieutenant General Hani Mohan Iyer and also Major General Jolly, who are with us on the broadcast. Lieutenant General Iyer, what do you make of this visit by the Prime Minister, especially at the time when the military talks continue between India and Pakistan at the DGMO level? This visit and all of this, particularly after the disinformation campaign from Pakistan.
The Prime Minister has always been visiting the troops in the forward areas regularly. When I was in Northern Command, I have coordinated a couple of his visits, both to the forward areas, and post his visits, when we went and checked with the troops, it made a huge difference in the morale of the troops. So this is the first time when we see a Prime Minister come so regularly, whether it is operations time or otherwise, and meet with troops. I am sure the people who are at Adampur would now get enough energy to carry on with their good work with the Prime Minister's visit to the location. And those people who are also watching it today will also get the same degree of energy. I would also like to add one more thing, which I wanted to say in the earlier part of your discussion.
Sure.
You must understand that we have just used a very small fraction of our capability on Pakistan. If I was to put it, it is in decimals of our capability. We have not yet unleashed our long-range vectors, which we can from the ground forces. Like I said, we have not yet started, and we have already put him on his knees. So we have this tremendous amount of superiority on Pakistan. And as far as China is concerned, I feel it is my assessment that over the last 2 years, China has been trying to find a way to get out of the imbroglio he's got with us in the northern front. And he has put what he could against India already on ground. And India has countered him with equal amount of response. And China has not been able to force us to disengage at our cost. So therefore, I feel China would also like to evaluate what has happened in the last 3 days, when despite a full-fledged problem happening on our western front, There has been no change in our attitude to the northern front, which means the way Indian forces carried out rebalancing, we are capable of taking on both our adversaries in the manner in which our doctrine has specified for us. And this must be very alarming to China, because I feel China would have tried and hoped that some element of forces that are located opposite him gets pulled out in this current imbroglio with Pakistan. And that has not happened. And it is going to be a major factor in the future.
Right. Major Jolly, would you like to deliberate upon how important, strategic this particular trip of the Prime Minister's really is? Because there was, of course, an attack that happened from the Pakistani side, but there was a greater build-up of that attack and a complete disinformation that came in from the other side of the border regarding this very attack at the Adampur air base. And that's why, and that's how reassuring that trip of the Prime Minister's is. He's also been briefed of the security preparedness at India's second largest air force base.
Yeah, thanks. So I would say it is very, the visit of Prime Minister is very critical, because, you know, the entire propaganda from Pakistan was surrounding that we have destroyed the base. What they do is they maybe throw a drone or two, and in their propaganda, in their news, in their communication, they take it to that level that we somehow totally destroyed the entire base, without showing any photograph, without showing any proof. So the visit of Prime Minister would not be on a base which is destroyed, which is under threat, which is effectively under range of enemy. All these things, factors kept in. The proof that our Prime Minister, the leader of the country, standing there, secure, safe, and confident, says a lot about how fake the Pakistani propaganda is. So this is kind of a, you know, when we were in NDA, one of our instructors, Group Captain Naik, who became Air Chief later on, he said one thing: it's hard to be humble when you are perfect in so many ways. Prime Minister Modi is proving us. We have perfection in every part of the defense spectrum. We are not afraid of anyone. And Prime Minister standing there amongst the troops, giving them confidence, telling them, I'm there with you, I'm standing behind you, makes a lot of statements internationally, actually. Not only to the, and it busts their propaganda to the end.
Absolutely. Do stay on with us, Lieutenant General Iyer and Major Jolly. We also have our colleague Pallavi Ghosh back on the broadcast with us. Pallavi, I was earlier asking you about how the Prime Minister so far is prioritizing what is the need of the hour. He's not indulging in the domestic politics. He is standing with the forces, because right now that is the time to, and it is time to do that. And hence this visit to the Adampur air base. More on this, please. Don't seem to have Pallavi with us. But Lieutenant General Iyer, you were talking about how this is an important aspect and how India has so far not used very many of its assets. We were also touching upon the kind of disinformation campaign that was really coming in from Pakistani side. One of them, particularly concerning the Adampur airbase, was on how they have struck the BrahMos system in India. That's how grave the disinformation really is coming from that side of the border. Do you see a rattled Pakistan trying to do that, or has it been usual with Pakistan, and particularly with the AI technology and the help, that entire repurposing of clips that are coming in from India and using it to their advantage has been done in the past also by Pakistan, but something that is even grown because of the kind of tensions that we see on both sides of the border?
Their propaganda talked about destroying our S-400
Yes.
battery at Adampur. That has been negated. We have shown in our DGMO briefings yesterday that everything is okay. It is not easy. You know, the problem with him is he is not able to digest that we are able to hit with punity across the length and breadth of his country, and we are able to display it also to the world media that we have done it. And on the other hand, all his efforts, and like Major Jolly said, his attempt to hit Adampur base with Fateh kind of, which is one of his strategic assets, has also failed. So when he puts everything together, even his nuclear bluff becomes a major question mark, because he may not be able to deliver it, because we have the capacity to knock off all of these before they are effective on ground. And this couple of days of engagement has actually put the entire Pakistan's India doctrine into a question mark.
Yes.
he may have to get back to the drawing board and decide as to what he has to do to even maintain parity with India, leave alone superiority. I believe as of now, somebody was mentioning that he's looking at relocating his headquarters from Rawalpindi to KPK oblique Balochistan.
Yes.
Well, let's try going across the Indus to the other side. I'm sure the Balochis and the Pathans are waiting for him. They will not let him come anywhere closer. In
Yeah.
fact, I don't think he'll be even willing to stay in Rawalpindi. As of now, I look at the Pakistan military and definitely its chief, Asim Munir, in a bit of a tizzy. He doesn't know what has hit him. He doesn't know
Absolutely.
what he is taking some very very irrational decisions. The issue of even getting into an abrupt ceasefire indicates that he has lost all options, and at the moment he is wanting for kind of support. And we should make use of this situation and try and push home the advantage we can through our other diplomatic channels, now that we have agreed to a kind of I won't call it a ceasefire, as like the Prime Minister said. We have paused our operations.
Okay.
We will restart it if necessary. And it should be ensuring that at the end of the whole thing, whatever was the aim of our dealing with Pakistan, is, especially with the aspect of terror, needs to be fully achieved in this imbroglio, and we should not let him get away like we have let him get away in the past.
Absolutely. In fact, Major Jolly, we are also putting out that tweet of the Prime Minister's, as he has mentioned about his visit to the Adampur Air Base, where he says that earlier this morning I went to the Air Force station at Adampur and met our brave air warriors and soldiers. It was a very special experience to be with those who epitomize courage, determination and fearlessness. India is eternally grateful to our armed forces for everything that they do for our nation. Important messaging there by the Prime Minister. It's also important to note here, Major Jolly, that this is frontline briefing that the Prime Minister has received. He's not sitting in bunkers like General Munir in Pakistan. He's standing with the forces.
You're right. I mean, there's not even a parameter on which you can compare Prime Minister Modi to, that clown Munir, who's a terrorist by nature. So the stature is totally different. The moment war started, PM has been leading everything. Our DGMOs have been leading everything. Our soldiers have been on front. Their army is scattered. Within few attacks, they were scattered. And I would actually take a moment to talk about how China is getting impacted here.
Sure.
See the systems. See, 80 to 82% of defense import in Pakistan comes from China. When it comes to platforms or weapon systems, it becomes 100% in that particular unit or system. The drastic failure of their systems, right from HQ series in the terms of the air defense, and the JF series in terms of aircrafts, is actually worrisome for China. They can easily blame that. Pakistanis will continue blaming system was not right. The PL-15E they gave us has 100-kilometer less range than the PL-15 original that Chinese have. These things will start. It will cause a strain between China-Pakistan relationship for sure. Because what will happen is Pakistan will try and blame it on China that you are giving us substandard stuff for the money we are giving you. And the China will say, we will only give you something because we anyway give you a lot of stuff for free. But the end game is that as a Pakistani soldier or a general or admiral or marshal, air marshal, they don't have good stuff to fight with. They know that very well now. They don't have air defense that can stop us. They don't have fighter jets that can enter our place. They don't have. And last thing I'll say is India has still a kind of a dragon in its sleeve, which is called Sukhoi with a BrahMos. The
Yes.
day it takes off, nobody in the world has answer to that. And everybody knows that. We have still not used that most probably. But so the superiority, the air superiority or the military superiority, the dominance that we enjoy is not actually towards only Pakistan. It's an indication to China also that this is where we stand. So it's a great place to be actually.
And now would be a good time, Lieutenant General Iyer, to also talk about the US. There was a fair amount of posturing that came in from the President of the United States that he was the one who brokered this peace between India and Pakistan, something that has been rejected by India. This visit of the Prime Minister first to the Adampur Air Base also is how much of faith he has in the Indian forces, and how the conversation between India and Pakistan is only going to be internally, and right now from here on, from the escalation that we've seen post Operation Sindoor, only militarily.
When I look at President Trump, he possibly was looking to carry out some kind of a diplomatic victory for himself. You know, he had initially said that he will be getting the Russians and Ukrainians to sign a peace deal. He could not do that. Then he said that I will stop the Israel-Hamas war. He could not stop that. So he is trying to find something that tells the world that he is a diplomat, and he's got a diplomatic thing inside him. The talk between the Secretary Rubio or Vice President Vance with Indians cannot be taken as, diplomatic indulgence into this current scenario. They were trying to ascertain what was happening, and I guess India was telling them what our lines are. I am very sure Indians would never have asked Americans to even involve themselves in this current scenario, because we had an end state in our own minds. I am sure whenever they had correspondent with us, our response would have been that we did what we did on the 7th. We did very clearly, and we enunciated that we don't want to escalate, and we stick by it. And at the end, I guess we stuck by it. Whenever an offer came that he doesn't want to fight anymore, we said, fine, we don't want to carry on with this operation. So there is nowhere that there is a deal being stuck by, Americans. Another word about the Chinese I wanted to add. It is not just his air defense system which has taken a beating.
Yes.
The Fateh 1 and Fateh 2, which were launched by Pakistan, are nothing but the Chinese M9 and M11 missiles, which he has, reformatted for himself. They have also failed. So, which shows that even the strategic reach of China, which it plays out so very much in the world order, that they have the so-called rocket force, that has also been bludgeoned by this current 2-day operation of Indo-Pakistan. So China, as Major Jolly put out, is in a real bad shape, because neither it has been able to achieve anything about dislocating our forces. Its entire armory, which possibly it was trying to, as I used it yesterday on your show, saying it actually Ukrained Pakistan. It tried to use what Americans did in Ukraine, use and try and show the capacity of its arms in Pakistan, has also failed. I am sure most of these buyers who are looking for cheap options other than the Western options would now think 10 times before buying weapons from China. So that has again become a major embarrassment for him. And the other aspect which comes out loud and clear is Atmanirbharta has shown its value for India.
Absolutely.
Tell the Americans, if they don't want to support us, we are not dependent on them. We are capable of taking care of our own. And I'm sure in the days to come, our own arms market, because we will come out with better systems and possibly
Absolutely.
more.
We do understand the kind of arms deals and everything that we are getting from countries like US and Russia, particularly also France, if we talk about Rafales. But the indigenous assets that the Indian military boasts of comes nowhere close to most of the countries around the world, and that's something that India must pride itself to have, and that is an important aspect also. But Major Jolly, this point that Lieutenant General Iyer was making on China, do you think it had used Pakistan as a lab rat, for that matter, to sell the kind of military assets from its country? But certainly none of that is working, because their Fateh 1, Fateh 2, in fact, coming rather remotely close to the S300 rather, not even 400. So it's not going ahead and matching the kind of capabilities that and the military might that India commands.
Yep, General Ayer was perfect when he said it perfectly when he brought out the missile thing, and that is how arms industry works. The larger countries, they develop a weapon system, they sell it to countries, and as the conspiracy theory goes, they instigate wars and all that. Fine, we'll not get into it. But the weapon systems get displayed in these wars and these conflicts. And that is how the market is created. It is a rude shock to China that all of their systems failed, whether they were offensive or defensive, whether they were supposed to defend the Pakistan territory or they were supposed to enter India and cause us damage. And this rude shock will resonate across the stock markets. I can tell you this much.
Okay.
Give it 1 week, and you see the stock value of Chinese defense market falling, without a doubt, because that's how volatile, that's how fickle the arms industry is. And what India has, established in turn is created a massive name for itself, its arms and armaments industries, its products, its weapon systems. You will see orders piling up. You will see more and more countries asking for Akash, Nag, Prithvi, or Tejas, and wherever we decide BrahMos. So this is a great achievement for India to display Atmanirbhar Bharat in terms of defense
Absolutely.
industry, where we used to lag so much traditionally.
Right. Major Jolly, let's also take in a minute to also talk about the significance of the Adampur Air Base. Very, very significant in launching that entire Operation Sindoor. We have seen the kind of briefings that have come in from the DGMOs for the Indian media and the Indian audience, where they had mentioned on how none of the military assets of India really had to cross the IB territory or the line of control. And despite that, they managed to attack the air bases in Pakistan. We are talking about several hundred kilometers away from this particular air base, and that's how strategic the Adampur air base really was. And now the Prime Minister is there.
Yeah, so I think what we are trying to talk here is that the reach, the range of the weapon systems on various Indian platforms, various Indian planes is such that you need not to unnecessarily get into enemy territory, get vulnerable to their air defense systems. Not that they're doing anything, but still, or get into dogfight just to drop a bomb. Now the range, this is like a very modern warfare kind of a stage. It is not like what we traditionally think of, when we think of air warfare, World War II, soldier fighting with each other, tanks fighting with, it's very advanced. So the range is such, especially with our air-to-air missile, meteors and all, our scalp missile, which we just saw in action, and the terror attacks, terror camp attacks, that we need not even cross the LOC or IB. The operational plan of Air Force guys would be made in such that they do a aggressive sortie, launch the missile, and come back safely to the base. However, there is always a threat. I mean, it is not that the enemy does not understand this. The moment a plane turns to changes its direction or gets into offensive mode, the radars pick up and their air defense starts to fire also. So, but the dominance has been set, and Adampur is, as you rightly said, is one of the biggest bases in Air Force that we have. That base has proven its worth in, gold today in the past few days, that they have launched a lot of attacks from here. They defended themselves and proven that the strategic position of this base can range and impact so many air bases in Pakistan, which we have hit with impunity where we want. It is not just a random missile strike. When we wanted to hit a certain runway, we hit that runway.
Yes.
When we were wanting to hit a certain shelter, we hit that shelter. That is the precision here. That is for lack of better word, quality of our attacks. So that's where we are today.
Right. Lieutenant General Iyer, there was a narrative that came in from the Pakistani side, and let me go back to the missile attack by Fateh 2, particularly at the Adampur air base. We have seen how the debris of the missiles were found in the Dogri village. However, the kind of messaging that was put out by the DGMOs in both the briefings really spoke about how what we have managed to achieve, and that was, of course, backed by a lot of evidence, where they have shown before the attack, the air bases in Pakistan, and what has come of the air base post the Indian attack become craters of the air bases. That's how impactful the attack really was. And most of it was launched from this particular air base where the Prime Minister currently is at. That's how we can juxtapose the Indian and Pakistani attack.
Now, I must elaborate certain things which actually are not taken in the correct light by many people. Air defense is a system. It is not just S-400. S-400 is one element of the air defense. So then you have the Akash, then you have the medium range missiles, then you have the short range missiles, the quick reaction missiles, and then you have the guns, and then you have the possibly shoulder fired missiles. So there is a system to it, and S-400 is part of that system. What India has achieved is integration of this system in form of a wonderful 3 to 4 tier kind of a net. So as the DGMO mentioned yesterday, when he used that analogy of the ashes test, If you get through one, you will be caught by the next. If you get through the next, you will be caught by the third.
Yes.
And if you get through all of them, the terminal one will take you. Why does this happen is because we have a wonderful what is called command and reporting system, CNR system, which means that everybody gets the picture of what is coming at them, and everybody gets to know who's handling what. And that is why we are able to carry out, countermeasures in an organized manner. Now, the same was supposed to happen in Pakistan with the HQ9 being the leader. But unfortunately, what has come out loud and clear is they may have the toy, but they have not integrated it as part of a system. And that toy in its own does not have any value. So when they targeted Adampur base, they felt possibly that India doesn't have a system, and they are also looking at S-400 being the only one which is saving India. Unfortunately, firstly, their Fateh was not allowed to come anywhere near the S-400. Our S-400 is absolutely safe and sound.
Yes.
And I must also tell you that we have used S-400 very, 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 very sparingly. If I could use that many number of veries. It is the other system which has actually carried out mayhem with Pakistani aerial efforts. And in his case, his HQ9 has been totally decimated. So much so that we could, move inside Pakistan with impunity. I must also like to emphasize here, what is Noor Ali Khan base? Noor Ali Khan base is equivalent of Parliament Delhi. When he tried to launch that Fateh 2 and we knocked it off at Sirsa in the fields, he was possibly trying to get a counter to what we did to him. So we have showed that you try anything, our air defense is organized. We have the kind of resources at the right place. I will not like to go into more details.
Yes.
We have not only the resources, we also know where you're launching from and what you're launching. And we have the counter to hit you back where you are launching from. And the hits of the 10th of May were responsive to all those sites from where he was trying to attack us. So by and large, we have told him that don't try to, show things that you don't or you can't do. We have a counter for every of your actions, and we have not yet started. And moment we start, we'll annihilate you. So that is how we
And
realized it.
Major Jolly, if it is a battle of narratives, here's how India is further trumping Pakistan in every possible way. The message that is coming from Prime Minister, where he has mentioned on how he and the nation are eternally grateful to the valor of our brave Jawans. He has said that in as many words. His presence really underlines that very aspect. As compared to that, we have seen how there was a buffoonery coming in from the other side of the border. There was a fair bit of drum rolling. That gravitas clearly was missing. And how the Prime Minister standing one with the forces really sets him apart.
Why are leaders important? Why do we study leaders in history? Why is Alexander and Napoleon known, not 10 of his soldiers that were fighting in Roman or French army? Why is Shivaji there? Because the thing is, single-handedly, a leader can shape or break the country or civilization, nation, state, anything. What we have here is a leader who is standing with his forces, who's making sure that he immediately went to the place which was rumored to be attacked and made sure the enemy gets the message that we are busting your propaganda not just by words, but by actions and pictures. Here's the proof. Compare it to the Pakistani side. Their prime minister is missing, right? He just came on a clip and declared his victory and gave a 1-minute clip, and you don't see him anywhere. Actually, I'm very sure nobody even keeps him in picture. The army must have taken complete control, army and ISI, and Shehbaz Sharif is just a placeholder sitting somewhere. He's not part of decision making anymore. Their army generals, the people who are supposed to take command and control and run the organization, they are missing in action. Their army is running helter-skelter because, as we discussed earlier in the discussion, they know we are very vulnerable. If India decides to take on, we have no place to run, hence they are moving around. So this leadership is very, very critical, which is lacking in Pakistan. And these two things, these two places, you can simply compare by the kind of leaders that are leading them, and hence the response in the country, hence the morale of the nation. As you and I, citizens of the country, can feel confident that we are taken care of, we are safe and secure, and nothing will happen to us. Whereas in Pakistan, they know they have no leadership. Most of their guys have run away to Dubai or London in their private jets. And if India attacks on us, there is nobody to save us. That is why leaders are important. That is why they need to be where they need to be at the exact time to make. Now you see the single visit that he has done.
Yes.
It's such a game changer for our
Major
narrative.
Jolly, just hold your thought there. We are putting out these shots of the Prime Minister's visit to the Adampur Air Base. Let's take a look if we can get an audio up on these visuals. All right, this is the Prime Minister. Okay. Resonating sounds, Vande Mataram, Bharat Mata Ki Jai by the Prime Minister and the armed force personnel. Very, very important moment as the Prime Minister made it a point to visit the Adampur Air Base, the second largest one that the country really boasts of as far as the Air Force might of India is concerned. Remember, there was a narrative that had come in from Pakistan where it had claimed that its hypersonic missiles had fired JF-17 fighter jets, and they ended up destroying India's S-400 air defense system. Completely a false narrative from Pakistan that has been fact-checked by India, that has been dissed by India, and the kind of missile attack that was seen very close to the Adampur Air Base also is why this trip of the Prime Minister is rather significant. He's met with the personnel there who have been really reassured because of the Prime Minister's presence, and you can see the kind of upbeat attitude that our brave Jawans really are showing. And Prime Minister's trip to the Adampur Air Base is, of course, helping with that entire spirit of bravery and bravado as well. But bravado, in fact, is an incorrect word to use here. Right now, it's the valor that is on display, and the Prime Minister is standing one with our brave Jawans. Something that was much needed to bust not just the kind of propaganda that was coming in from Pakistan, where they had been wrongfully claiming about things that were not true. And this time, the Prime Minister's visit is not just standing up against those false claims, but also silently saluting the valor of our brave Jawans. There is no amount of blowing a trumpet that we are seeing coming from Pakistani side, particularly after the second round of DGMO level talks and the ceasefire understanding that has been arrived upon between the two countries. This visit, very, very important one of the Prime Minister's, as that cessation of hostilities has been arrived at, and the Prime Minister made it a point that the first trip that he does to meet with our brave Jawans is at the Adampur Air Base. Remember, this air base has been really strategic in firing several of those missiles into the Pakistani territory without really going on the other side of the LC or the IB, and that's how important these strikes really were from the Indian side, and speaks volumes on the precision strikes by India that was conducted on the air bases of Pakistan. The Noor Khan Air Base particularly destroyed very close to the General Army headquarters in Rawalpindi, which had led to the Pakistani General Asim Munir really have to take shelter at one of the bunkers for a couple of hours, and now he's contemplating that entire shift of base of the GHQ altogether from Rawalpindi. That is the impact of the Indian attack, and that is how the world should see it. Here's the Prime Minister at the Adampur Air Force Base. In fact, Lieutenant General Harimon Iyer and Major Jolly continue to be with us. Lieutenant General Iyer, very, very resounding and thumping cheer that the Prime Minister received, and the Prime Minister also made for our brave Jawans here. These visuals really speak for themselves.
Firstly, if you look at the video very carefully, there are two very important things which the video shows. You can see a Rafale, and next to the Rafale, you can see the S-400. You see now, you can see the Rafale and the S-400 both standing proudly. It should send the correct message across people who thought that they could destroy these two, major assets of Indian Air Force. as far as the enthusiasm, like I mentioned, I have met with the troops after the Prime Minister's visit, and I have interacted with them, and I have seen a improvement in their energy and morale after this gentleman comes and leaves. And it has not been a one-off thing. He has been coming and meeting with the troops at regular intervals, whether it is on occasion of Holi, Diwali, or these kind of functions, or whenever such an event happens, Prime Minister is always there. I have seen what happened when the Prime Minister went to 14 Corps in Ladakh, when aftermath of the Chinese incursions in 2020, and the resultant response which the Indian Army gave afterwards. So, just another word about the Prime Minister. I feel we are very fortunate to have a very strong man who is, approachable, who is decisive, and who gives very clear decisions and makes the job of the person executing it much, much easier. And this is something which has ensured that in the last 10 odd years, whatever has been thrown at us has been given back much larger manner and with much better response. Thank you.
Okay, General, stay on with us. Major Jolly continues to stay on with us as well. Very good afternoon, Major. I'm Kritsween this side. Yes, we're keeping up with these visuals and the all-important message it sends out to the forces. Not to forget, it comes hours after Prime Minister's address to the nation, where he made the intent of the entire nation, sir, amply clear that we're not going to let go of terrorism, of the issue that continues to hurt us the most, and we're going to keep going with these kind of terror strikes. And then come these visuals, another big messaging, sir, which is being carried out by the Prime Minister.
Absolutely. It is something which is for people to see. A small 30-minute interaction has a huge result-oriented deduction. And I'm sure the message is going across the entire country. It is being seen by troops all over that our leader is with us. And it is also being seen by adversaries on all sides to show what kind of a dispensation we are with currently.
Right. So you do hear, as far as these visuals are concerned, the Prime Minister meeting the air warriors, the soldiers at Adampur base, and Bharat Mata Ki Jai slogans being chanted. The Prime Minister leading the charge. He's boosting the morale of the air warriors there who he's interacting with. Lieutenant General Iyer, what kind of a message does this normally send out? We've seen the Prime Minister interact with our Jawans, with our forces on multiple occasions, in these forward locations, in these forward posts, and yet again we see the Prime Minister do this. This time around, of course, it's got a strategic importance attached to it. It's got a lot of messaging attached to it. There is a sense of rebuttal, response, retaliation that comes with the entire story around Operation Sindoor. In times like these, when the nation is united in its resolve, and the Prime Minister, right after a successful mission, goes to meet those who were right at the front line of the operations, what kind of an impact does that hold, General Iyer?
A huge impact. I will not quantify it. It cannot be quantified, because what it does is not just the troops in Adampur. It tells the troops all across the front line that the government and the leadership is absolutely abreast with what is happening on ground. Each and every of these symbolic actions have a tremendous amount of results as far as morale and energy of the troops are concerned. And I've seen the Prime Minister do it time and again. And like I said, it is possibly part of his leadership qualities that he extends this kind of interaction with everybody, whether it is the troops, whether it is leaders. He is always visible, and that makes a lot of impact on the people working on ground. I must admit that today's visit of maybe 30 minutes or 45 minutes will have a tremendous amount of value to all future operations, both in India and abroad.
General Iyer, stay on with us. Major Jolly, I also want to touch upon the aspect that has officially come in from Pakistan, because India was quick to respond to each of those false narratives, fake propaganda being peddled by Pakistan, of which was part of what Pakistan claimed was striking at 26 military locations in India. And their claim was also extended to Adampur base. So there's a messaging involved which gets conveyed to Pakistan as well. With Pakistan just a few hours ago holding that press conference with personnel from its three forces detailing some of the damages that the Indian side has seen. The Prime Minister is now at the Adampur air base, and you can clearly see there are some of those fighter jets also parked in the vicinity. You see the morale of our forces, and that is once again a big message being sent out to how we stand firm in our resolve and unharmed.
Yep, you're absolutely right. It is. So what does he do as a leader, as leader of the nation? You don't expect him to pick up a rifle and start fighting. That's the job of the soldiers that he has, the army he has, and the pilots that are flying the planes, or airmen that are manning the radar. As a leader, he's supposed to keep them motivated. So leaders lead, and he's doing that. The busting of propaganda at international level, that's his job. He's doing that. Taking on the enemy at diplomatic level, that's his job. He's doing that perfectly. Keeping the morale of front end, soldiers on the front, keeping the morale high of people who are facing the enemy high, that's his job. So he's doing that perfectly. So this is the leader we are seeing. It's let's not, I mean, yes, he's the Prime Minister, but this is now in his leadership role, where he's leading the soldiers, right, being with them and making sure each and every one of them knows that I'm there with you. It's, as General Ayer also said, this is not just about Adampur base. I'm pretty sure he'll visit some other place also, maybe army base or a air base or naval base, I don't know. But the message goes to every soldier at every post in the entire country that your Prime Minister is with you. Tomorrow, if some enemy tries to make short of you by saying, oh, we attacked them and we devastated them, he will land there just to prove that you are safe, I'm standing with you, and nothing will happen to you. Till the time I am there, we will protect every base, every station, every cantonment. So this is phenomenal, and it does a lot of damage to Pakistani propaganda. I'm pretty sure the saner voices in Pakistani media or people who actually care for truth will actually see this, and they will ask their government. You were saying that Adampur base was destroyed, and the Prime Minister is there with thousands of troops, happy and cheering and saying Bharat Mata ki Jai. What is this? So all their propaganda and misinformation they have been projecting in front of their country and internationally, without any proof, just to add, will keep falling apart step by step, and this is one of those actions.
Oh yes, very rightly pointed out by you, without any proof, because so far, as opposed to what India has done, India, remember, has shown satellite images, it's shown before and after images of how some of their military installations were before Operation Sindoor saw the light of the day, and post the damages that they've suffered in retaliatory strikes carried out by India, because India made it amply clear, General Iyer, that we're only going after your terror infrastructures, but if you strike us and you strike our civilian population or our military installations, we're going to do the same, and the impact is going to be more hard-hitting. And we've shown that with proof, as opposed to Pakistan. Failed to provide proof that the world can believe, and then comes the Prime Minister, leading the charge for the entire country, not just boosting the morale of our forces, but also setting the example right, that we've carried out a successful operation. We've ensured that we don't suffer any damage in return. General Iyer, I also want you to emphasize on the role this particular airbase has played. Adampur was spoken of by Pakistan widely, that it has suffered a lot of damage in the strikes it carried out. India was quick to react to that, but we're also learning that this is where some of our air defense systems were stationed, and that's how we could really thwart Pakistan's attempts.
Pitswin, I will not like to divulge operational inputs because it has implications. But that having said, all our air bases are part of our integrated air defense systems. So whether it is Adampur, whether it is Halwara, whether it is Ambala, whether it's Jammu, each of them have very specific air defense capacities, both in terms of ground-based air defense and aerial assets. And aerial assets may not be permanent there, they may be there temporarily. Some of these air bases are used as recovery bases, some are used during various stages of war to launch operations or to recover aircrafts after they are coming back from operations. So it's a kind of a flexible kind of a system that we have. It is not necessary that assets will be there in each of these bases at all times. So that having said, but Adampur, if you look at the location of Adampur, it is located in the heartland and it looks at the heartland of Pakistan. So when you draw an arc, if I was to put a simple analogy to you, if you put an arc of let's say 120 degrees from Adampur into Pakistan, you will see all his main areas of value getting covered by it. Let's say Lahore, Rawalpindi, Islamabad, Sialkot, and right up to Muzaffarabad. So that kind of an area of influence Adampur possibly has, and it is somewhere important to us when we carry out deep strikes into Pakistan. What went from Adampur, how Adampur applied itself, I'd like to refrain from bringing out in an open because it has implications. But it is lesser said, I must say that once again I'm trying to re-emphasize the presence of a Rafale and the S-400 indicates that what the Pakistani propaganda is all about. We are very clear as to what happened with our systems. We don't hide them. We are very open with whatever happens to them, whether it's casualties or losses. Whereas on the other side, it is all false propaganda. And they get defeated when we provide evidence the way we have done in the DGMO briefs over the last 2 to 3 days.
Yes, General Iyer rightly pointed out by you, and that's what I was meaning to ask. Each of these military installations located close to or along the LOC and the IB play a significant role, and that's briefly what I wanted you to touch upon. Thank you for that. General Iyer, what I also, want to touch upon is the manner in which the Prime Minister has, at every step of the way through Operation Sindoor, right after, the cowardly Pahalgam attack, the Prime Minister's been holding daily meetings with the tri-services chiefs, with the CDS, the NSA has been in attendance, also Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh. Now that is one set of visuals. That is one set of visuals which everyone in the country was very closely looking at. Just the last 2-3 days, we've seen the Prime Minister on a regular basis hold these meetings at his official residence. So every step of the way, not only did he give full operational freedom to the armed forces, the leaders of the armed forces, there was a messaging that was being conveyed then, and this, General Iyer, I think is an extension of that. What would you say?
Absolutely, absolutely. I would also like to compare with what was happening across the border. How many times did you see the Pak so-called authority, meeting? Though I don't think the Prime Minister carries any authority, because there was a joke which was floating around in the social media in some of my WhatsApp groups, where there was a message which was, released that Shehbaz Sharif has given the army the full authority for operations, and the joke said that the chief told Shehbaz Sharif to tell that the chief has got authority to carry out full scope of operations. So the entire authority on the other side was Asim Munir, and he was not visible in the entire last week. He possibly was hiding, like you say, in possibly a safe bunker.
Yeah, now we're learning he's been relocated to a fortified bunker in Rawalpindi.
So if the leader and entire Pakistan knows that Shehbaz Sharif doesn't control anything, they all know that the person who controls that is Asim Munir. And if Pakistani populace doesn't see their leader and hears that their leader has gone into a hiding, the entire morale of Pakistan as a whole is going to take a beating. And what has been done by the Prime Minister today is only going to reinforce that beating on Pakistan. After this, I'm sure in the next 48 hours, you will see the friction amongst the various people who are unsatisfied with the way Pakistan has behaved in the last 5-6 days. There are factions within Pakistan which do not approve of the events that have happened in the last 3 weeks. There are a lot of fissures which will get activated after this, this imbroglio gets a little settled. I am sure the elements both inside Pakistan army and inside Pakistan politics are going to take a change in the coming months. They are going to be very interesting times, and I'm sure we all will be getting to see how a nation disintegrates, and I do hope that we get to see them in the coming months.
And General Iyer, let's not forget, this is exactly a reflection of what the armed forces culture has been like. For decades at length, we've seen every time after a successful operation, festivals, or any reason that the armed forces are celebrating in their respective regiments, in their unit centers, we've seen at the arrival of the commanding officer, at the arrival of the brigade commander, or the arrival of the GOC, that's the kind of morale boost these special visits really mean. That's the kind of speciality they come with, and they have so much of an impact on troops stationed on ground zero, isn't it? So this is what the Prime Minister is also following, in a sense, keep bringing a personal,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I must tell you, as a senior officer, the moment you visit a unit or a formation and you shake hands with, let's say, 5 or 10 of the Jawans over there, it sends a huge message to the rest of the people that, yes, this is a man who's with us. And I'm talking about a senior officer. Here we are talking about the leader of the country. And in a condition when he has got so many other things to do, if he is able to find time to, go do and just do this, it may be symbolic. Some people might call it symbolic. Some people may call it political.
Yeah.
I don't want to do those things. These have huge impact on the morale of troops. And like I said, Adampur may be the only place he visits, but the effect of this will be seen right down from Siachen in the north to Bhuj in the south and to as far back as Manipur in the east. Every soldier, wherever he is, will be seeing this on various form of media, whether it is television media or social media, and he will get energy from such visits. This is tremendous of the Prime Minister to do it, and that also within a day of the operations being, I won't call it ceased, being paused.
Yes, everybody is still stationed on the front lines, and the Prime Minister has put the message straight. You make the first move, or you dare make the first move, we're going to hit back harder. We're going to hit back with more strength, something that you're going to regret for a long time. It's also a reward, General Iyer, to all those who've had those 4 or 5 days of sleepless nights. That essentially was the mood on the ground. Not feeling the fatigue, still high on morale, but when the Prime Minister, the leader of your country, comes to thank you, comes to tell you that you've done a great job, keep at it, it means a lot. General Iyer, but like you've been saying, this is in sharp contrast to what we've seen in Pakistan. We've really not seen a show of unity, we've really not seen the political class and the military leadership walk hand in hand, and we do know it's reflective of what Pakistan has followed for years at length. The political leadership stands no chance when it comes to decisions taken by the military leadership. How is it reflective of the overall functioning or the machinery that Pakistan Army follows in terms of these kind of operations?
The Pakistan Army looks up at the chief of, and I'd say Pakistan Armed Forces. They look at the appointment of the chief of army staff. The chief of air staff or the naval chief or even the CGS, they are all secondary to them. The person, Pakistan Army and the Pakistan population looks up is the chief of army staff. And that is the reason why it continues to be a rogue state, because like people say, while other nations may have an army, in Pakistan's case, it is Pakistan Army that has a nation. So whoever heads that office of the chief, he carries that kind of a control on entire resources, both in terms of material and man of Pakistan. For him to be in a state of, I will say questionable status is going to have a huge impact in the manner in which Pakistan responds in the coming months. Every decision that goes out of Pakistan is clearly vetted by the army authorities and the chief. And in the current 3-4 days, we have seen 2 officers which have shown weaknesses. One is the chief and the second is the DG ISPR, which is the mouthpiece of the chief to the populace. The DG ISPR in his various press conferences has only carried out disservice to the nation as far as Pakistan is concerned. And I am very sure it is all going to have effects the way Pakistan goes about its business in the next few months to come. Unfortunately, they don't have a political systems to talk about. They don't have the kind of options they can go to. And till such time the Pakistan army gets totally discredited, there is going to be no change in the way Pakistan works. And this particular occasion is possibly the best time for us to push all other resources now to carry out or push home the advantage that we have already received. And I'm sure there will be many other methods to ensure that the entire office of the Chief of Army Staff of Pakistan and the armed forces of Pakistan receives the degree of discredit that will take away the control of this organization from the populace. And only then I feel Pakistan will become a state which can be, we can have business with. And
Right.
sure people are working towards it.
No, the Prime Minister has made it amply clear. In his address to the nation last evening, General Iyer, the Prime Minister said the only talks that will take place with Pakistan will either be on terrorism or Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, that terror and talks cannot go hand in hand, trade and talks cannot go hand in hand, and blood and water cannot flow at the same time. So the messaging was clear, and that messaging continues with these visuals that we've accessed from the Adampur Air Base. Stay on with us, General Iyer. I do want to go across to my colleague Aman Sharma, who was the first to get us these visuals. Aman, give us a brief timeline of how much time did the Prime Minister spend at this very significant air base, located about 100 kilometers off the Indo-Pak border, but also India's second largest air base. How much time did he spend with the air warriors there?
Well, Kritsveen, what we are hearing is that the Prime Minister spent at least over an hour at the Adampur Air Base early today morning. When he flew there, it was a surprise visit. We only came to know about it now, but the PM went there early today morning. I think the messaging of the Prime Minister, Kritsveen, in this visit is very, very significant. Adampur Air Base is the one which Pakistan had claimed that it had damaged, it had attacked and badly damaged. These pictures now completely expose Pakistan's fakery, I would say, on that level, because the Prime Minister has chosen to go ahead. As you said, this airbase is India's second biggest airbase. It's just about 100 kilometers off the border, located near Jalandhar. It's one of India's most important forward bases. It has also, played a key role in the earlier wars of 1965, 1971, and the trigger for also what many believe that Pakistan tried to fire a missile towards the Adampur airbase, and this is which India, of course, brought down. There was no damage to the Adampur airbase at all, but this particular missiles attack which Pakistan launched on the night of May 9th was a major trigger for India to launch the big strikes on May 10 at multiple Pakistani air bases. Almost 10 of them were very, very badly damaged, from Noor Ali Khan in Rawalpindi to Islamabad to Lahore to Karachi, all across. In fact, the western border that we have with Pakistan, all the air bases were targeted by India, and the attempt that Pakistan tried to make towards Adam Air Base, we are told, was the trigger, because that was a major escalation. So the Prime Minister going there, and you can see these visuals, is interacting with the Air Force personnel there. The Josh is very high, and these chants of Bharat Mata Ki Jai and Vande Mataram, the Prime Minister interacting with the Jawans, also patting the shoulder of some of the Jawans to commend their bravery. Prime Minister's message also that it was a special occasion to be there. And the Prime Minister has never shied away, Kritsveen. If you see in the past, the Prime Minister has visited very, very forward air bases. He's gone to Siachen, he's gone to nearly every forward base, be it in Kashmir, be it in Punjab or Rajasthan or Gujarat. The Prime Minister loves going here, interacting with the Jawans every Diwali. He wants to go to the border. But this visit, I think today morning, especially after his address yesterday evening, when he had commended the bravery of our Jawans, when he had commended the bravery of our armed forces in putting this crushing blow to Pakistan and bringing Pakistan to its knees, forcing Pakistan to call India for a cessation of hostilities. I think the whole chronology that the Prime Minister had listed out, this particular visit right the next morning, underlines India's dominance over Pakistan during Operation Sindoor, how our brave Air Force pilots and our Air Force rained hell upon Pakistan, not just on the terror headquarters, the global terror headquarters, which the Prime Minister said, of Muridke, of Bahawalpur, of Kotli, but also on the Pakistan air bases, when Pakistan dared to attack our air force bases and our military installations with missiles. India has taught Pakistan a lesson, and I think that is the big message of this visit of Prime Minister Modi to the Adampur air base.
Okay, Aman, stay on with us. I want to take a quick comment from General Iyer, because General Iyer, this takes me back to a scenario in the armed forces, and I want to draw an analogy, and do tell me if that would be correct given these visuals of the Prime Minister interacting with the air warriors at the Adampur Air Base. This is almost quite close to what the feeling is like usually in a regiment where, let's say, for instance, a battalion commander interacting with the troops on ground, reporting to the commanding officer would be. So here you've seen the tri-services chiefs already detail the entire operation to the Prime Minister, but that's the kind of analogy I want you to come in. Would you agree with this analogy, sir?
Totally agree. No, the troops are looking at the Prime Minister as their leader, and the effect possibly is going to be much more than just a commanding officer or station commander, in this case coming to the airbase, because the station commander and the commanding officer is seen much more often. But the Prime Minister is something which is extremely rare to meet and interact with. So these boys who are there on ground, who see the leader in flesh and blood, right next to them, shaking hands with them, patting them on their backs, encouraging them, showing faith in them. All this are very, very good messaging what to the troops on ground with whom he is physically there,
Yes.
and also with troops who are watching this. Because those who are watching this are also must be feeling virtually that the Prime Minister is there with them. Some of them will possibly be looking forward to doing something so great that the next time the Prime Minister comes to their unit and their station to visit. So this is a kind
And
of
communications, General Iyer, on an official level by, let's say, any of the chiefs of the armed forces, be it the naval chief or the air force chief or the army chief, to the Prime Minister is very different from the Prime Minister hearing it from the troops who were stationed on ground. So it gets very personal with these kind of interactions.
first-hand communication is always the best communication.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister can't be there everywhere. So certain times he communicates through the leadership of the armed forces. Even, let's say, the air chief, he cannot visit each air force station at all times. But whenever he visits any air force station, I'm sure whenever he speaks there, whatever he speaks there is communicated to the entire air force. The same is applicable to the army and same to the navy. And when the Prime Minister has gone today, whatever he has spoken there, that will get encapsulated in terms of his words and communicated to all other, services, so that people can understand what the leadership is talking about. And I once again emphasize, for a person, a soldier, to have the Prime Minister shake his hand or pat him on the back, it has got huge implications. And when somebody sees a Prime Minister patting somebody or shaking hands with somebody, it again has huge implications, because it creates a kind of a yearning in terms of that lot of people who want to possibly be the next one where the Prime Minister wants to visit. So they will be trying to do something extraordinary when they are called to do, hoping that their action on ground attracts the Prime Minister to come and visit them. And it is, like I said, today, whenever we are in this kind of a situation, all what people on ground needs is encouragement and a belief that what they are doing is appreciated by the leadership on the top. These two things, when they happen, the results which the troops produce on the ground are tremendous. Huge, I must say.
Yes, and motivation does, General Iyer, as we all know, play a huge factor in the Indian Armed Forces overall and how they function. It's the one driving force that keeps the armed forces going. General Iyer, stay on with us. I do want to go across to my colleague Aman Sharma on that note once again. Aman, are we learning of any near future communications on part of the Prime Minister with the tri-services chiefs or any military engagements on his part?
Well, Kritsveen, the Prime Minister has been meeting the three chiefs very regularly, almost on a daily basis. We saw him, that meeting happen a couple of days back as well. So I think that's a drill which we have been following ever since Pahalgam happened. Earlier it was the readiness, the planning for the attack, and thereafter, as the escalation happened, the Prime Minister was meeting with the chiefs daily as well. I think the essence of what Prime Minister said yesterday in his address to the nation was very clear, that all our armed forces remain in very high alert mode. We are not letting our guard down. This is just a pause to the hostilities, because Pakistan has promised to behave, Pakistan has promised to act on terror, and Pakistan has promised not to attack India. So if Pakistan does all this, we will also not attack. but we will not tolerate terror coming from their soil. If there is an attack next time, we will treat it as an act of war. The Prime Minister's message was very clear. So he's today at the Adampur Air Base, and that, as I was explaining, is a very, very symbolic visit with great messaging, because it is also increasing the morale, of our armed forces, also telling them first-hand that they have done a great job. They have, the kind of damage they have inflicted, the kind of punishment they have inflicted upon Pakistani terror infrastructure, as well as the Pakistani army bases. To have the Prime Minister travel to this forward base and interact with the Air Force personnel first-hand, the Air Force, which has, I would say, taken the lead in this entire Operation Sindoor by smashing the terror headquarters of Bahawalpur, of Muridke. The Prime Minister's first-hand, commendation for them, and these Josh which we are seeing amongst our forces speaks for itself, Christine.
Okay, many thanks, Aman, for that. I'll come back to you in just a bit. Going across to Akash Sharma on that note. Akash, there were a certain drones that were spotted in the Adampur Air Base region, certain drone debris which was also spotted in the vicinity where the Adampur Air Force Base is. So give us a sense of what we've seen the last couple of days and why it becomes significant today to make this comparison of the Prime Minister making his way to the airbase, interacting with the air warriors, and once again sending a strong message of how all is well and our mission continues.
Right, Christine, I'll mention 2-3 things, but before that, just last 13-14 seconds of this video are very important. I won't say it on air, of course, but then this video in itself is reverting the claims of Pakistan. A lot of, the platforms are quite visible in the video. And, it is intentionally done to send a larger message. Prime Minister went there, the aircraft landed there, which means the runway is intact and we are very much, able to use that runway. Our air defense systems are in fact very much, identifying and in fact detecting, destroying your drones. That in fact came last night, which means that AD system is very much effective. Regarding S-400, rebuttal came yesterday, and in fact proofs were given, and today Prime Minister visiting this Air Force station, the frontline air base, which caters to the threat, that are coming from our western, neighbor, or I should say adversary, because at such a time when, this operation was carried out with precision by the armed forces, they came out and in fact tried not just the military facilities, but the civilian population as well. And today, Prime Minister, after visiting Adampur, has somewhere proven that not just we are there with the armed forces to motivate, but also we can rebut all your claims that you have been propagating on social media regarding the sort of, destruction that you have carried out. Further, Noor Khan, the destruction of Noor Khan, in fact, was carried out after the attempt on Adampur itself. This is what we have been told. We have been given to understand that when Pakistan tried Pathankot, Adampur, and in fact, Jammu several times, not just via drones, but also via missiles, then only it was, decided that now, they'll have to be given reply, and then reply was given, and we all know that what was the sort of reply. Further, Bharat Mata Ki Jai, Vande Mataram, this is something that is motivating our troops, not just in this airbase station, but across the country. We know that armed forces, have done a commendable job. They have been briefing us. In fact, they have been putting out evidences as to what has been done, what is the kind of intensity of the sort of destruction that has happened, in Pakistan, and specifically, in Noor Khan in Rawalpindi, which is very, very important base for them, from where they are carrying out their operations of the transport aircraft, and also the refuelers, in fact, IL-78 are very much there. They are carrying out drone activities from different places, and we all know as to what are their intentions. Yesterday, DGMO, in fact, had a word, and in fact, it was discussed as to what is going to be the next course of action, and we were somewhere, told that how they are going to stop all the activities. But no, we know that how, they have been sending drones. In fact, last night it got, detected and, were destroyed. So at this point in time, Prime Minister is visiting the particular base, which was in news for, sort of allegations and in fact sort of claims that Pakistan had made. And now Prime Minister is giving a larger message where, he has interacted with troops. He was briefed about the sort of operations that were carried out, sort of threats that came towards the particular Air Force station. And the 13-second video, the last 13 seconds of the video are very important, Christine. I'm mentioning it again and again, that how, the assets are very much visible in the video.
Oh yes, so there are videos that we're putting out, but what you see on your screens, Akash, stay on with us. These are visuals that the Prime Minister has shared on his social media handle. The Prime Minister says, sharing some more glimpses from my visit to Air Force Station Adampur, and he has put out at least 4 different visual sets for the entire country. You see visuals of the Prime Minister giving that Jai Kara. You see the Prime Minister there raising Bharat Mata Ki Jai slogans with his fist in the air, and that's another visual you see. He's addressing the air warriors there. He's addressing our soldiers stationed at the Air Force base in Adampur. What you see behind him, and Akash, you can come in here, perhaps correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a MiG-29. We're not going to give away too much of the specifications that come with the Adampur Air Base, but that's a MiG-29 you can spot right behind him. Akash? Okay, not sure if Akash is through. We're going to put out those pictures one by one. 4 images have been shared by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on his social media handle, and he's said that he's going to keep sharing these glimpses. Arun Dhanta is with us on the broadcast too. Arun, another few pictures being shared by the Prime Minister. This is one such image, the Prime Minister standing at the podium with his fist in the air. You know, he's been heard already given the Bharat Mata Ki Jai slogan, which was being repeated by the air warriors who were surrounding him. We've seen those visuals already. Tell us a little bit about what you've picked up so far about the communication that the Prime Minister's had with the soldiers stationed at the airbase.
Well, see, Christine, one thing is very clear. This visit very, very significant of Prime Minister Modi. And remember, yesterday when I was here at Prime Minister Modi's residence, when all the service chiefs were present here, NSA Ajit Doval, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh was present, Indian chiefs were present, all were present. But one thing which from the post, all of them left except the Air Force chief and NSA Ajit Doval. I think this was something which they were planning for today. That's the reason why there was a separate meeting which happened yesterday here at Prime Minister Modi's residence between Air Force Chief NS Ajit Doval and Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Modi wanted to visit the Adampur Air Base to meet those heroes, those Air Force pilots who taught that lesson to Pakistan, who inflicted that pain on Pakistan by dismantling their military stations, also importantly those terror launch pads, those houses of the terrorists in Pakistan. And this is not only a morale booster for the Air Force pilots, but also for the entire country, and a message for the Pakistan that this is how we are celebrating this, the way we have dismantled your terror infrastructure there, and also the communication and the other military satellites and other the air bases that we targeted through our aircraft and the Air Force. So I think that's the message which Prime Minister Modi wanted to send out through this visit. And even as we speak, there is a meeting which is going on here at the Prime Minister Modi's residence. And NSA Ajit Doval was present here. He just left a few minutes back. S. Jaishankar is the External Affairs Minister, is still inside. Now, of course, you will have to counter the narrative which is being built by the Donald Trump and America. We are seeing that regularly. He's putting out those posts that how he managed to arrange that ceasefire between both the countries. So I think all these things will be discussed in this meeting. India has already ensured this thing, that when discussion happened, whether it was J.D. Vance or with Marco Rubio or any other official of the United States, there was no discussion on trade, as Donald Trump cites in that post that he discussed trade between India and Pakistan, then only the ceasefire happened. So India will, of course, have to counter that narrative which is being built by the United States. So here in the country, on one hand, where you are motivating our forces visiting Adampur Air Base is a very significant air base, Christine, and Pakistan, in fact, has tried to target that, but air defense system, our forces have shown the Pakistan, that how they can retaliate, not only retaliate, but inflict damages, more damages on Pakistan's side, which is very much palpable and visible for the world to see.
Oh, yes. And the Prime Minister personally doesn't seem to be paying too much attention to the political criticism that, he's having to face every now and then. Arun, stay on with us. Pallavi Ghosh joins us as well. Pallavi, don't you think the Prime Minister currently clearly focused on boosting the morale of our forces? I mean, going by these visuals, where he's greeting the Air Force personnel with folded hands, patting on their shoulder, congratulating them for the splendid job they've done through Operation Sindoor. Not just that, while passing through them, raising Bharat Mata Ki Jai slogans. So very powerful visuals. Pallavi.
Well, I mean, if you listen to the Prime Minister's speech yesterday, he wrapped it up by saying Bharat Mata Ki Jai thrice. He began by talking about the armed forces and paying the salute or tribute to them. So I think it was very, very clear that this Operation Sindoor was, of course, about the people of the country. Of course, it was India's fight against Pakistan. But more than that, it was all about our armed forces. I think the Prime Minister also decided to address the nation after all the details were being given by the military operations and the experts over there. The point I think he's tried to make is that this was very important because it's the morale of the armed forces which really needs to be kept in mind. The fact also, Christine, is that he repeatedly made the point that Operation Sindoor is not over. It's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing continued battle against Pakistan. And for that, our armed forces really need to be together. And that's the reason why the morale needs to be up. So today, when the Prime Minister is speaking with the armed forces at the Adampur Air Base, that's a larger messaging going across Pakistan to India, of course, but more importantly to the real people who are going to be battling and who save our country, the skies, the water, and on the ground as well.
Okay, thank you for that, Pallavi. General Iyer, I do want to come to you because, we were talking about the strategic importance of the Adampur Air Base and didn't want to give away too much. We're not going to do that either. But look at these two visuals, sir. If you are being able to see our screens, right behind the Prime Minister as he addresses the Air Force personnel on the podium is the MiG-29. And on the right side of our screens, we see the S-400. We see the long tubes, the long-range surface-to-surface air missile system. That's another big indication coming in through these visuals. General Iyer.
Yeah, the MiG-29 is our premier air defense fighter, and its basic role is air defense. And the S-400, of course, indicates or counters the claim which Pakistan was making that they have destroyed the S-400 battery at Adampur. It's not easy. The basic reason why Pakistan went about this propaganda was possibly got carried away with some media houses going gaga about everything being, taken out by S-400s. And their only target was trying to locate and destroy an S-400. It's not easy to firstly locate and destroy an S-400 when you have a well-integrated air defense system, like I mentioned before. And this would send the only success which Pakistan was able to, somewhat convey in their discourse over the last 2 days, when they tried to put up some morphed satellite pictures showing, destroyed air defense assets at Adampur, which was, immediately refuted by our claim that these are morphed. And this actually now indicates that nothing could be done. Secondly, you must understand, I think you had also mentioned in the passing, for a Prime Minister to land in a forward air base when operations are just on a pause, gives a huge signal to the country. It tells you where you are. On the other side, I don't think the chief of Pakistan Army can even take off from Noor Khan air base as it stands. And our Prime Minister is able to come to the forward base of Indian Armed Forces, which gives a huge signal not only to our adversary but to the world that what we are putting out is absolute facts. And I only hope that the Western media, which is somewhat has been misreporting issues for the last 5 days, takes a cue and starts taking our briefs as the truth and puts out the actual picture. I guess there is more business to play. There are issues regarding sale of arms which will get affected if our discourse gets communicated in the Western world. I'm sure all that is playing around with the Western media. That notwithstanding, people are watching. I'm sure this is being streamed in other media houses across the world. They are watching and they can make their own inferences. We are very strong and we are overwhelming our opponent in this current operation. And we have him actually against the wall. And we can actually take this operation to its logical conclusion and push home the advantage if we want to. But we are, as a responsible nation which believes that this is not the age of war, we don't want to extend this operation. We are put on a pause. But if at push to the other extreme, I'm sure the entire wrath of the country will be put on Pakistan. You must also understand, when one missile sneaks through a well integrated air defense system, it gives a very huge message. Because if an air defense system could not tackle a single missile coming through, when a volley of a number of missiles come through, they will all get through the air defense system. And that is what I think Pakistan and China have understood over the past 2-3 days of our engagements. That if we start applying the entire range of our long range vectors, the entire Pakistan air defense and the air bases can be annihilated within 48 hours. And thereafter, we can possibly prosecute ground operations to our advantage. And I think that has been understood by the Pakistan army. Because let me tell you, all said and done, there are some sensible and professional soldiers within the Pakistan army also. And I'm sure they must have got through to their chief to tell him to stop this madness and try and find a solution before their army gets decimated.
Yes, General Iyer, because from the time when, right after Operation Tharoor, if you recollect, on the night of the 7th, early morning 8th, when the first drone sightings were spotted across Jammu and Kashmir and parts of Rajasthan as well and parts of Gujarat to along the IB, there were several defense experts who spoke to us and who said that this was perhaps a probing exercise. From then to finally Pakistan going ahead and making a request for a ceasefire, Pakistan wanting a pause in the military operations. And in that sense, I want you to come in on how this is a very important message that the Prime Minister is sending out, that I repeat, we have put a pause to the military operations, but we're ready and we do take pride in our military prowess. So beware. General Iyer.
So when this whole thing started, Pakistan possibly went with a kind of a thought process that the so-called Turkish drones, which again I feel were overhyped by media in Ukraine also, because subsequently they were all knocked down by the Russians. But in the initial wave of Russian operations, these Turkish drones did have had some degree of success. And Pakistan possibly got buoyed by that kind of success. And it felt that since it has got a huge number of these available with them, Turkey being its so-called supporter, they felt that they could send across a message using low-cost options, because they didn't want to use their long-range vectors, and they were a little skeptical about using their air power, because most of the air power, I must tell you, is on loan. The J-10s which the Chinese have given them, even the PL-15 missiles which the Chinese have given them, they are all on loan. They have still not yet been paid for. I'm sure the Americans would have put a ruling to say that the F-16s cannot be used. So the Pakistanis thought that they will be able to achieve some kind of a response using these drones. These drones were knocked out. Then they tried to escalate it by going up with their missiles, which were also knocked out. So they had no other answers left with them. If I once again reiterate that the presence of the Prime Minister in a forward air base when the operations are still not closed sends a very, very, very big message to everybody across the world who is watching that India has arrived. India will not be cowed down. India can't be forced into submission to accept terms that are not acceptable to India. And that I think the Prime Minister has made it very clear in his address yesterday. I haven't seen a better address by a Prime Minister, what he communicated not only to our countrymen, but to the entire world yesterday, that don't mess with us, we can take care of ourselves, and we know how to take care of you should you mess with us. I think that kind of a message has gone across to all India haters who are there abroad, and I'm sure they will all calibrate their responses accordingly.
You spoke of the message being sent out to the world through the Prime Minister's address late last night, and also through the messaging that is being conveyed through these visuals of the Prime Minister's visit to the Adampur Air Base. General Iyer, that message to the world, do you think is striking loud and clear? Because there seems to be still a section, even in the Western media, that wants to give in to the Pakistani version, despite Pakistan not being able to submit ample proof. Not just that, look at the political leadership and the kind of statements they continue to make. The foreign minister, very recently in an interview to CNN, almost downplayed the manner in which Pakistan was the one that was desperate to strike a ceasefire with India.
The message, if it is not read by people, then the people are going to suffer. I leave it at that, because I'm sure people who have sense would have understood the message, and people who are morons possibly will continue peddling their same agenda as the person you mentioned. The way he has behaved over the last 2 weeks, I don't consider him mature to even being mentioned in a forum. He has been possibly the loose mouth which has caused more damage to Pakistan than anybody else. And I'm sure the person at the helm of their army today is on the same level whenever he opened, because he is the person who started this whole thing by making that so-called address to the Pakistani expats. And the way he spoke there and the way his external affairs and defense ministers have been speaking, it speaks about the kind of level of intelligence these people have, and they don't need to be responded to. The people who understand the Prime Minister, I'm sure the people in the US administration would have decoded each and every word, because every word that the Prime Minister said yesterday had value. And I'm sure people who are advisors in the US administration, the Russian administration, the UN and the Chinese would have taken note of the values which the Prime Minister has laid out, and they will possibly start responding in that manner. The others don't matter to me.
Okay. Also, to quickly put this in perspective with the several counter strikes we've seen in the past, be it the surgical strikes or the Balakot air strikes, General Iyer, this time around, the Prime Minister has also signaled that Operation Sindoor will continue and a fight against terrorism will continue. He said that in the past. General Iyer, I'll come back to you in just a bit, Aman, but this time around, of what we make of the Prime Minister's last night address, the Prime Minister suggested very, very clearly that going forward, even though in the past we have walked back a little or moved a little towards Pakistan, hoping for a change, hoping that trade, hoping that money, hoping that business is going to put some sense into Pakistan. This time around, it's not going to happen until there is a clear crackdown against terrorism in Pakistan. Aman.
Well, yes, absolutely. And I think Prime Minister very clearly spelled out last night that the rules of the game with Pakistan have very clearly changed. Number one, I think the Prime Minister's words that we will no longer differentiate between terror and the state sponsoring the terror. So Prime Minister is now clearly saying that Pakistan cannot get away by saying that, there are certain terrorists on their soil who are working on their own. We are not behind this. India will treat Pakistan and state-sponsored terror as one. So I think that is extremely important what the Prime Minister said. Also, the words that he said that, the trade and terror cannot go together, talks and terror cannot go together, and khoon aur pani ek saath nahi bahenge. So I think the Prime Minister was also very, very clear that the Indus Water Treaty will remain in abeyance till Pakistan mends its ways and especially acts against the terror modules working on its soil. Make no mistake, I think Operation Sindoor has demolished what the Prime Minister said, what the global terror headquarters functioning in Pakistan for decades. He said the people that we have killed, the terrorists that we have killed, were roaming freely in Pakistan for at least 2 to 3 decades, and Pakistan had not acted against them. So I think these are very, very important declarations by the Prime Minister, which came last evening. A new red line has been set that, India will only speak to Pakistan either on the issue of terror or on the issue of Pakistan occupied Kashmir. We don't want any third party mediation. We will solve this with Pakistan, but only on these two issues. Nothing else can be spoken to Pakistan. And I think this visit today by Pakistan also demolishes those big fake claims by Pakistan that it had, severely damaged and destroyed the Adampur Air Force Base. I think the Prime Minister visit there and the background, I can say, of the S-400, defense prowess of India is being showcased there, and the Prime Minister's visit is, exposing Pakistan's lies. Yes, they tried to escalate matters by trying to attack the Adampur Air Force Base with a missile, but India brought it down. And after that, India rained such hell and fury upon Pakistani Air Force bases. Those visuals that we have seen in the last few days clearly speak for themselves.
Oh yes, absolutely. And as opposed to what Pakistan is claiming on how amongst the several military installations, Adampur Air Base was also struck hard, these visuals speak otherwise, and they are the real picture that needs to be followed, that needs to be looked closely. Aman, many thanks for that quick update. I'll come back to you in just a bit, going across to Arun Dhanta as well. So this is what the Prime Minister was up to early this morning. A surprise visit, took everyone by surprise. And most certainly, as our defense experts have been highlighting, this has indeed once again given a lot of boost to our forces, to the air warriors stationed at some of these prime locations, Arun. But we're learning after his visit to the Adampur Air Base, he was back at it at 7 Lokalyan Marg. A meeting took place. Give us a sense of what transpired.
Well, that's right, Christine. We saw a little while ago, NSA Ajit Doval was present here. He left the residence of Prime Minister Modi, but we are told that, S. Jaishankar is still inside, and perhaps some of the secretaries are also. So Prime Minister Modi is chairing this meeting with few secretaries. That's what sources are telling us. And as we've been discussing about Prime Minister Modi's visit to Adampur Air Base, it is busting various lies of Pakistan. Of course, Pakistan has been trying to target Adampur Air Base. Prime Minister Modi's presence there, and you see those visuals in which Prime Minister is standing in that Air Force ground, which is very much visible in the visuals. It is very safe and secure. You have hundreds of staff of that airbase. They're present in that video alongside with Prime Minister Modi. And as we were discussing about this visit of Prime Minister Modi, remember, Christine, yesterday when this core group meeting happened here at Prime Minister Modi's residence, everybody left. It was only Air Force Chief NSA Ajit Doval who were present with Prime Minister Modi. Nobody knew at that point in time why this separate meeting was taking place. But today we are understanding that meeting with Air Force Chief and NSA Ajit Doval was about this visit of Prime Minister Modi, which took place today morning. And it was very significant. Prime Minister Modi understood that the courage which has been shown by our Air Force, and therefore it was imperative on his part to visit there, not only to boost the morale of the Air Force and also the people of this country, but also to send across a message to Pakistan that we are with our forces and we are holding our ground, and there is nothing which happened to our air base as you claim. And on the other hand, you have multiple damages which were inflicted by our Air Force on Pakistan, and we're given to understand there are some of their air bases which have been non-functional now at this point, and in fact they will be, of course, trying to recover the debris of those technical stuff which was busted by the Indian Air Force. Prime Minister Modi, when he's back here in Delhi after that visit to the Adampur Air Base, he's still holding those meetings. As we've been discussing about this, that how government of India will have to bust the narrative which is being created by various international countries, especially United States of America, the way they are talking about the ceasefire, how they managed to do this ceasefire, how they brought the trade thing into it, and all these things. So I think that narrative also needs to be cleared. As yesterday, MEA sources has clarified this fact that there was no talk which happened, either with Marco Rubio or with Donald Trump or with any other official about trade in the backdrop of Operation Sindoor and the pain that India inflicted on Pakistan.
Okay, many thanks, Arun, for getting us all those details. Those really are the defining images of the day. The Prime Minister early this morning making his way to Adampur Air Base in Punjab. Strategically very important, but the messaging is loud and clear. Thanks for staying tuned. That's all we could pack for you for now. We'll be right back after a quick break.
Long efforts to sanction Pakistan-based terror groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed publicly condemning Pakistan terror link would spoil the all-weather China-Pakistan alliance. So on the face, they want to look neutral. They want to look at as a peacemaker. They want
Right,
to
Sadan, do stay on with us. We are getting an important piece of breaking news now. We are learning that today early morning, Prime Minister Narendra Modi went to the Adampur Air Base. We are putting out these pictures. Remember, this is the second largest Air Force base that the country has. He has been briefed by the Air Force personnel there, and he also interacted with our brave Jawans. That detail has been brought to us by Aman Sharma, our colleague, who's giving us a sense of how important and strategic this visit by the Prime Minister really is. Yes, Aman.
Development, the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, early today morning was at the Adampur Air Base in Punjab, and this is very, very important because Pakistan had tried to target the Adampur Air Base with a ballistic missile, their Fateh missile, and it was spoiled in the air itself. The Adampur Air Base remained completely safe, and this was the trigger. This was the trigger that led India to launch strikes on Pakistani air bases, 11 of them, and destroy many of them, cause heavy damage to the Pakistani air bases. The Prime Minister today early morning, Adampur Air Base is just a bit away from Jalandhar, and the Prime Minister flying to the Adampur Air Base there, interacting with our Air Force warriors, our Air Force pilots, the bravehearts who have launched this fight against Pakistan, the Prime Minister. And these pictures are very, very telling because these pictures show that the Adampur Air Base was completely unharmed. The Prime Minister has gone there and taken a stock for himself. He has interacted with the people there and with the Air Force Jawans there, and this is very, very important, as I said, because the Adampur Air Base towards which this missile was launched by Pakistan, the Fateh missile, on the night of May 9th. This is what led to Mr. Narendra Modi take the huge decision that Indian Air Force and our BrahMos missiles will be launched towards Pakistan's Air Force bases. We attacked their Rawalpindi Air Base, the Islamabad Air Base, the Lahore Air Base, the Karachi Air Base, the Skardu Air Base. Multiple air bases of Pakistan were attacked, and this is what brought Pakistan to its knees, and it went to the US and then called up India asking for a ceasefire. So I think after the Prime Minister's big nation address to the nation last night, this particular visit now to the Adampur Air Base is extremely significant because it sends out a very strong message by India that, our Pakistan could not harm any of our air bases, all their drones, all their missiles. As the Prime Minister said yesterday, हवा में तिनके की तरह बिखर गए, कोई भी target पे land नहीं हो पाया. While when India launched its response, it not only damaged several of its air bases, it demolished Pakistan's morale. We broke this story yesterday as well that when the attack on the Noor Khan Air Base happened, the Pakistani Army Chief Asim Munir hid in a bunker for almost 2 hours, and now Pakistan is even thinking about changing its headquarters from Rawalpindi. So these are big developments. I think the Prime Minister's visit after his address yesterday also.
Right.
Hailing the valor of our Air Force, our Army and our Navy, and now Prime Minister visiting the very important Adampur Air Base in Punjab.
Right, absolutely. Aman, do stay on with us. We also have our defense correspondent Akash Sharma join us on the broadcast. Akash, this is an important development.
A very good afternoon. You're watching CNN News 18 with me, Akanksha Swaroop. Days after Operation Sindoor, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Punjab's Adampur Air Base, where he was briefed on the security situation and also interacted with members of the Air Force. Remember, Adampur was among the Air Force stations that were on Pakistan's target following India's Operation Sindoor. Prime Minister Modi's visit to Adampur Air Base is significant as the Pakistani army earlier claimed to have damaged the airbase following its counter-border strikes overnight. This comes after, in a stern address, Prime Minister Modi that he delivered yesterday, he warned Pakistan that India's new policy against terrorism is now the new normal. That's a doctrine that's been set by Operation Sindoor. He has stressed that terrorism and talks cannot coexist, neither will trade and terrorism, and that blood and water cannot flow together, reaffirming that India will not bow down to Pakistan's nuclear blackmail. Prime Minister also saluted the valor of Indian armed forces for carrying out the operation and dedicated it to every mother, sister, daughter of the country. Prime Minister also gave a clear message on the new age warfare and the doctrine that India has now adopted against terrorism. In an indirect message to world leaders, including US President Donald Trump, seeking for dialogue between India and Pakistan, Prime Minister Modi has categorically stated that if there are talks, it will be on terrorism and on India's terms. That includes Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. On that note, let's also take you through the visuals as Prime Minister made that key visit to the Adampur air base. As we all know, that was one critical air base which was being targeted by Pakistan. Now, what's important to note over here, as Prime Minister received that rousing welcome by the armed personnel, you can see what is stationed at the back. It is a MiG-29, which, as we all know, is a Russian make. Now, it was at the Adampur base that the S-400 jumped to India's rescue. Now, remember, this air defense system has been the equivalent to Israel's Iron Dome, and it was the S-400 system that very skillfully, very effectively battled all of those missiles that were directed towards India by Pakistan during Operation Sindoor. Let's quickly bring in Aman, who's joining me live on the broadcast. Aman, important to highlight the importance and the significant role that all of these Russian makes, whether it is the MiGs or even the S-400, have played in Operation Sindoor.
Well, absolutely, Akanksha. The S-400 was virtually our shield. When Pakistan started firing these missiles and sent its fighter jets with missiles, towards India, towards our air bases, our military installations, it was the S-400 which brought every missile down. None of the Pakistani missiles could hit their targets, and that is why the Russian S-400 defense system, which India had bought, Akanksha, at much objection of America. America was threatening sanctions against us. Both the former Trump administration and the former Joe Biden administration was dead against India buying the S-400. They never wanted us to buy it. They threatened sanctions. They said we are not comfortable. But Mr. Modi stuck to his resolve that we need this system, because ultimately, and it has proved true today that when our air defense system has completely spectacularly performed against Pakistan, it is mainly due to the S-400 defense system that Pakistan could not enter into our territory with any of the missiles hitting their targets. Also the MiG-29s, he is featuring, another workhorse we have from Russia, which has proved its utility in one, conflict after the other. Both the S-400s and the MiG-29 being featured behind the Prime Minister in these pictures. I think a very, very specific messaging, maybe also a messaging to America, Akanksha.
And when you talk about that messaging to America, I think it's important and inevitable that comparisons will not crop up, because remember how the S-400 has come to our rescue, so has the MiG-29, and it was India who downed Pakistan's F-16s, which we all know is an American MiG.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the irony could want to be starker here, Akanksha, that, Pakistan F-16s were downed by India. India has also said that we downed a few Pakistani planes. Of course, the wreckage fell on their side, so we don't have the wreckage. But the Air Force has said this officially at a press conference that yes, we downed a few Pakistanis high-end jets. So this is obviously the reference is towards the F-16s, made in America F-16s given to Pakistan. I would take you back to Balakot when, these F-16s were there in a dogfight with Abhinandan. And, Abhinandan had also shot down an F-16 during the 2019 Balakot strike, the day after that when there was a dogfight. So I think India has always maintained this air superiority over Pakistan, especially with the Rafales. Throughout we have the 36 Rafales which we have used to fire, missiles from our own territory. We didn't even have to cross the border this time. And I think that is what the Prime Minister was also referring to yesterday when he said that, we have defeated Pakistan in every sphere of this conflict, be it land, be it air, be it sea. We have shown our complete superiority. We have hit Pakistan at will, deep inside Pakistan territory, in Rawalpindi, Islamabad, Lahore, Karachi, using our missiles. And these defense systems that you see in the background of the Prime Minister, the S-400s, the MiG-29s, Russian-made equipment supplied to India, I think has proved its worth in gold. And it is a messaging to America, absolutely, I feel so.
Absolutely. And when you say that it is the messaging, and when you talk about the larger message, take our viewers through why Adampur is such a critical military installation for India, and that's why Prime Minister chose to visit it, not just because of course the way it was targeted by Pakistan, but also because it is housing one of the S-400s that's come to our rescue.
Yes, Akanksha, I think the visit to Adampur is very, very significant. This is India's second biggest airbase, but also there's a history that, few days back, Pakistan tried to hit Adampur airbase with a missile. It was futile. We shot down that missile in the air itself, but this was the attempt made by Pakistan, and this was, I think, the big trigger that led India to decide that we will attack Pakistan's air bases. As I mentioned, the Noor Khan airbase, the trigger was the missile fire towards Adampur, which India brought down. Pakistan also claimed that it had damaged the Adampur airbase in a big way. So the Prime Minister's visit today demolishes those claims, and that is what the government of ministers, Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav, has also tweeted, that Prime Minister's visit to Adampur and the visuals that we see on the screen are there for the world to see that the Adampur airbase is completely intact. There was no damage, no missile could reach it, no drone could reach it. This demolishes Pakistan's fake claims, which came a few days back that they had damaged the Adampur airbase. Also, I think, Akanksha, the Prime Minister's symbolism of this is the messaging of this visit just after his address to the nation yesterday, which I thought was a very rousing and a very inspirational address. He laid out the facts before the nation. Today's visit just after that also is a big morale booster to the armed forces. This is the Prime Minister going in the middle of them, patting their back, telling them that they've done a great job. He said that during his address to the nation yesterday as well. But I think the Prime Minister in person there makes a big messaging. It's a big morale booster for our forces.
I want to, draw your attention to the greater messaging behind the time-tested friendship that New Delhi and Moscow share. Has the S-400 now arrived as that reminder of that time-tested friendship between Moscow and New Delhi, given that the US president is pushing heavily for our defense procurements to go up as far as Washington is concerned?
Well, yes, Akanksha, and these S-400s, 3 squadrons of them have come to India since 2020. And what we are told by the government that more squadrons of S-400 will be delivered to India by Russia by the end of this year. So the arsenal that we have of S-400s is only going to increase. We are only going to get stronger with this. And this is perhaps arguably the world's best air defense weapon. It can bring down incoming missiles from almost 400 kilometers away. It covers almost the length and breadth of Pakistan with that manner. I think the purchase of the S-400s by India, I think despite such international pressure exerted by America, by both their administrations, by the Trump administration as well as the Biden administration, speaks of the far-sightedness of the Narendra Modi government, that we need these weapons and we need them now.
At a time, countries are now beginning to take sides, unlike a United States, which is trying to milk or rather capitalize on this conflict by playing a more neutral role. We've seen how Turkey is standing in solidarity with Pakistan. Should India now look towards Russia more than the United States for solidarity?
Well, Akanksha, we are close to a trade deal with the US as well. So I think what I will see the Prime Minister's address yesterday, he never mentioned Donald Trump or the US. That is very, very significant, because the claims that have been coming from Donald Trump and the US, he tweeted about this so-called ceasefire even before India and Pakistan could do so. Then he went ahead yesterday to say that we told both the countries that we won't do trade with you unless you halt hostilities. India is clearly not buying these claims. India is clearly saying that there were 4 conversations between America and India, by J.D. Vance to Mr. Modi, by Secretary Rubio to Mr. Jaishankar and Mr. Ajit Doval. Trade was never mentioned. Also, I think the Prime Minister yesterday made it very clear without naming the US, but he gave his viewpoint that we only halted, put a pause to these hostilities because Pakistan was brought to its knees. It is Pakistan which pleaded us to stop hostilities. Their DGMO called us, and that is why we stopped. He did not speak of any US role in this, and in fact what I am told, that even when J.D. Vance had called up the Prime Minister was very firm and unmoved. He was clear. This was a call which came on May 9th. He had said that if Pakistan hits us, we will hit back with double force, and India showed that on the morning of May 10 by attacking 10 Pakistani air bases. Even Mr. Rubio, when he called Mr. Jaishankar to tell him that Asim Munir of Pakistan is ready to wave the white flag, we clearly told US that let Pakistan say that directly to us. We don't want a third party to be informing us about the same.
All right. In fact, going to quickly bring in Akash, who's joining me on the phone line. Akash, that very S-400, which was seen as a bone of contention between India and the United States till some years ago, because remember, it was during the purchase of this S-400 that the United States had threatened us with CATSA sanctions, which India managed to skillfully get a waiver on. How has this defense purchase particularly come to our rescue during Operation Sindhu?
Oh, yes, it has proven its worthiness and factor because, as far as S-400 is concerned, so we have got 3 regiments till now, 2 regiments are still pending. And, Russia, is about to deliver those regiments by this year, possibly, or by next year. It got delayed because of Russia-Ukraine war. But then, these 3 batteries, these 3 regiments, in fact, have, somewhere proved that how effective and capable this air defense system is, given the fact that not only, it thwarted the attempts, that were from the missiles, but also the drones. We know that it was an integration between Akash and, the missile and several others. But then S-400 was critically important because it's a Russian system, and as far as Akash is concerned, so it's an indigenous system. And, there were claims that how Pakistan has destroyed S-400 batteries or the tubes. But in this video that Prime Minister has posted, in fact, it is categorically, in fact, mentioned by the armed forces yesterday, and now is visible in the video that how S-400 is intact, and specifically in Adampur, S-400 is intact, where we can see the tubes in the backdrop of that video. So, Kanksha, this 30-second video is sending a larger message, not just to the countrymen, but to the entire world, that how not just we have destroyed their terror camp, but we are also destroying their narrative. We are also rebutting their narrative with evidences. We have earlier, shown the satellite images of the kind of destruction that Indian armed forces carried out on those terror camps, on those 9 locations. And then, we also showed that how at different positions when Pakistan tried to attack on our military bases, how in retaliation, the strikes were carried out, and in fact the precision hit was there, at Noor Khan and in Muridke and at several other places. So at this point in time, while Prime Minister has visited Adampur, of course it is sending a larger message to the troops and the air warriors deployed there at that particular station, but is also an evidence to the entire world that how our entire system is intact, and the sort of narrative that Pakistan has been playing, and in fact international media has been believing on, that sort of narrative is false.
Absolutely. Going to request you to continue staying with us. Let me quickly bring in Arun Danta also, who's joining me on the phone line. Arun, at a time you're seeing calls for a parliamentary special session coming from opposition parties, largely the Congress. What is the greater messaging behind Prime Minister's visit to Adampur? Arun, can you hear me?
Well, see, it was a very important meeting of visit of Prime Minister Modi, because remember, you need to boost the morale of the forces, because those people have really inflicted that pain on Pakistan today, with which Pakistan is really embarrassed. So they are trying to portray a different narrative in their country for their people. But the reality is this, the fact is this, that the damage has already been done in Pakistan. And with the precision which the Indian Air Force has shown, they have not targeted any individuals there. They've only targeted the terror hubs or the terror launch pads or terror houses of the terrorists, and also the military assets. And that only happened when Pakistan retaliated post the Operation Sindoor, when they tried to target our civilians, when they tried to target our different military bases. Then only India retaliated, and our Air Force has shown them the capability that we have. And I think that's the reason why Prime Minister Modi visited the Adampur Air Base, not only busting this lie of Pakistan that, as they were claiming, that they targeted one of India's air base, which was Adampur. And in these visuals, you can see, Akanksha, very clearly that it was shot in the ground. There is no damage to the field. Forget about damage to any infrastructure. But on the other hand, when India targeted, we've shown the proof to the world that how we targeted, and we ensured that there is no casualty to the civilians. And also we still ensured that there is no casualty in the part of military of Pakistan. We only showed our capability that what we can do. And if you come back and try to provoke us once again, then we will come back with brute force. And that time we will target even the military also. But this time around, Akanksha, Prime Minister Modi ensured, and in fact, the forces have ensured that the target are measured, calculated, and there is no risk to the civilian. That's the message, because they want to send out the message to the Pakistan. If you're not stopping the terror factory of Pakistan, then we will come back hard to you. And that was the reflection, in fact, Akanksha, in Prime Minister's speech, 25-minute speech that he gave yesterday. He very categorically gave that warning to Pakistan that the nuclear blackmail will not work, and terror and talks and trade and terrorism cannot go together, and blood and water cannot flow together. So Prime Minister Modi not only gave a very significant message through that speech yesterday to Pakistan, but today's visit to Adampur Air Base was very significant to boost the morale
why I
of...
want to bring you in on one more point, Arun. It is that there are two messages being sent out over there. One is to the global community, including the United States, and one is also domestically. Remember, Congress has been ever since questioning the Prime Minister with regards to why was the ceasefire brought in or announced by the US President. So what is the greater message going out there for the domestic front over here?
See, Kangsha, Prime Minister Modi and our forces have ensured. See, I mean, we've been speaking about this, even BJP has been highlighting this point, that it never happened in the past that a nuclear country targeted another nuclear country. But this happened in this case, because when you are targeting us, when you're killing our civilians, then we'll have to really hit back you hard, whether you are a nuclear power or not. That's what Prime Minister Modi and the forces are shown. And in terms of course, the criticism which opposition parties are, in fact, throwing at this point at the government, they are saying that it's the role and the work of the opposition. Let them do. We will do our work. We have targeted the terror launch pads, those people, masterminds who were behind the attacks, multiple attacks, not only Pahalgam attack, even before that, even IC-184, the hijacking that happened, some of the terrorists who were involved in that, those were also part of that list of those killed by the Indian forces. And also, of course, the infrastructure where these people were, in fact, making those terrorists who would later on come to India, then inflict that terrorism or pain in the country. So the country ensured that those terror hubs, those houses of terrorists are targeted with precision, with the measurable target, less in pain or casualty on the part of civilian. That's what the message which was clear from the Prime Minister's side, and it was delivered by the Air Force. And that's the reason why you see that Prime Minister Modi early morning visiting Adampur, of course, not really paying much attention to the criticism of the opposition. The only thing which they are portraying at this point is that we have done our job. We have busted them. We have targeted them where it hit them most. By in fact dismantling their infrastructure in different parts of Pakistan, especially the headquarters like Bahawalpur and Muridke, where we're given to understand, on a large scale, you will have a training of the terrorists targeting those hubs going inside Pakistan 100 kilometers is something which is huge.
True. Stay with me. Let me quickly bring in Akash on that note. Akash, many skeptics have questioned how India should have capitalized on this military momentum, and that Operation Sindoor had in fact almost reached the brink of victory, and that India has snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. But having said that, what was Prime Minister's message? And alluding to Prime Minister's message and that key address last night, he's made it amply clear that Operation Sindoor is not over yet, A. B, it's a doctrine now set in stone when it comes to responding to any act of terrorism coming out of Pakistan.
It was quite clear since the beginning. You must be remembering the address of Prime Minister in Bihar. In fact, at that point in time, Akanksha, it was categorically mentioned that, we are going to punish those who were behind Pahalgam and those who are backing them. It means the terrorists who carried out the sort of attack in Pahalgam on 22nd of April, and also those who were somewhere supporting them. And that's why, the terror camps were the target. Now, as far as, the Operation Sindoor and its continuity is concerned, you see, Kanksha, time and again it has been mentioned by India that you need to stop terrorism, you need to stop infiltration at the LC, and you need to stop violation. In 2021, we saw the violation somewhere, stopped because of the sort of DGMO level understanding, because it was costing Pakistan a lot. And that's why they, in fact, via DGMO level talks, they, in fact, somewhere, stopped the sort of violation, artillery violation, in fact, at the LC. But what about terrorism and what about, the other activities? These activities were very much on, and in fact, these terror camps were operating in places like Muridke. So that's the reason why these camps were the main target, and we saw the precision. We, of course, know that Operation Sindoor is on, and it has been mentioned by Prime Minister and, in fact, Raksha Mantri time and again, that if these activities will continue, then you will be getting a befitting reply. In fact, the DGMO level talks, Akanksha, yesterday, people were, in fact, asking as to if IWT will be discussed or, is going to be an agenda. No, it is not going to be in the agenda. The fact is that now you have escalated the condition to a military level, and now only the military issues will be discussed first. Whether or not it will be a part of future discussions, we don't know. But till now, and in the near future, IWT will not be discussed, at least at the DGMO level, and it has been mentioned categorically. Now, as far as Pakistan is concerned, if or not they are going to take any step, yes, they have taken steps and they have failed in achieving anything out of those steps. We have seen that how they have been sending drones, and in fact, the countries like China and Turkey are somewhere helping them with the sort of logistics and in fact drones. We have been noticing that how, in fact, last night in Samba, in Amritsar, and in fact in other parts also, drones were witnessed. But yes, ADF was very much active. S-400, Akash Tir, Pichora, AD guns of Army, L-70, and every, other system that is a very part of the integrated system with Army and Air Force, was used. And in fact, these attempts were thwarted. And in fact, it is now very clear that Indian armed forces are capable of thwarting any sort of attempt, any sort of aerial threat, or, any threat related to any threat from Pakistan that is coming towards our military bases or anywhere in the country. We will be, in fact, thwarting every sort of attempt because we have got these sort of capabilities now.
Oh, absolutely. And Arun, if I could bring you in on thwarting attempts being made by Pakistan, whenever there's a war, it's always fought on two levels, militarily, and then the other one is also in terms of a propaganda war. What is India doing to fight that propaganda, that misinformation that's doing the round? We'll be deep diving into that. But after a quick break, stay tuned to CNN News 18.
Efforts to sanction Pakistan-based terror groups like Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, publicly condemning Pakistan terror link would spoil the all-weather China-Pakistan alliance. So on the face, they want to look neutral. They want to look at as a peacemaker. They want
Sadan, do stay on with us. We are getting an important piece of breaking news now. We are learning that today early morning, Prime Minister Narendra Modi went to the Adampur Air Base. We are putting out these pictures. Remember, this is the second largest Air Force base that the country has. He has been briefed by the Air Force personnel there, and he also interacted with our brave Jawans. That detail has been brought to us by Aman Sharma, our colleague, who's giving us a sense of how important and strategic this visit by the Prime Minister really is. Yes, Aman.
Development, the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, early today morning was at the Adampur Air Base in Punjab, and this is very, very important because Pakistan had tried to target the Adampur Air Base with a ballistic missile, their Fateh missile, and it was spoiled in the air itself. The Adampur Air Base remained completely safe, and this was the trigger. This was the trigger that led India to launch strikes on Pakistani air bases, 11 of them, and destroy many of them, cause heavy damage to the Pakistani air bases. The Prime Minister today early morning, Adampur Air Base is just a bit away from Jalandhar, and the Prime Minister flying to the Adampur Air Base there, interacting with our Air Force warriors, our Air Force pilots, the bravehearts who, have launched this fight against Pakistan, the Prime Minister, and these pictures are very, very telling because these pictures show that the Adampur airbase was completely unharmed. The Prime Minister has gone there and, taken a stock for himself. He has interacted with the people there and with the Air Force Jawans there. And this is very, very important, as I said, because the Adampur airbase towards which this missile was launched by Pakistan, the Fateh missile on the night of May 9th. This is what led to Mr. Narendra Modi take the huge decision that Indian Air Force and our BrahMos missiles will be launched towards Pakistan's Air Force bases. We attacked their Rawalpindi Air Base, the Islamabad Air Base, the Lahore Air Base, the Karachi Air Base, the Skardu Air Base. Multiple air bases of Pakistan were attacked, and this is what brought Pakistan to its knees, and it went to the US and then called up India asking for a ceasefire. So I think after the Prime Minister's big nation address to the nation last night, this particular visit now to the Adampur airbase is extremely significant because it sends out a very strong message by India that, our Pakistan could not harm any of our air bases, all their drones, all their missiles. As the Prime Minister said yesterday, हवा में तिनके की तरह बिखर गए, कोई भी target पे land नहीं हो पाया. While when India launched its response, it not only damaged several of its air bases, it demolished Pakistan's morale. We broke this story yesterday as well that when the attack on the Noor Khan airbase happened, the Pakistani Army Chief Asim Munir hid in a bunker for almost 2 hours, and now Pakistan is even thinking about changing its headquarters from Rawalpindi. So these are big developments. I think the Prime Minister's visit after his address yesterday also.
Right.
Hailing the valor of our Air Force, our Army and our Navy, and now Prime Minister visiting the very important airbase in Punjab.
Right, absolutely. Aman, do stay on with us. We also have our defense correspondent Akash Sharma join us on the broadcast. Akash, this is an important development. Also, posturing a very important one, which is much required for our brave Jawans at the moment, of a sense of reassurance by the Prime Minister. And that's how significant this visit is, because ever since those pictures of the missile was shown in the Dogri village near the Adampur air base, there was a lot of conjecture that was being drawn out of it.
Right, Griha, Adampur, air base is one of our frontline air bases for both defenses and offensives. And, Aman was pointing out that how it is in Punjab, very close to the border. And it was...
Welcome back. Now, Congress MP and Chairman of the Parliamentary External Affairs Committee, Shashi Tharoor, spoke to CNN News 18's managing editor, Zakir Jacob, with regards to the tensions between India and Pakistan. Tharoor hailed Prime Minister Modi and said he was given a very clear picture, which was a strong message to Pakistan. Listen in to what he has to say, especially with regards to Donald Trump taking away credit for this temporary understanding between the two countries.
I want to now talk about some of the contemporary issues, and obviously everybody's talking about the India-Pakistan situation, Operation Sindoor. The Prime Minister had an address to the nation yesterday. Do you think now he has framed a Modi doctrine that if Pakistan tries terror, then there will be a cost to pay for that terror? And this whole thing about nuclear blackmail.
No, not only has he, I think, brought that message across very clear with Operation Sindoor, but you will notice there has been a ratcheting up. 2015, after the mistrust, or after the trust that was mistakenly placed in Pakistan by inviting them to participate in the Pathankot investigation, after which they went back to Pakistan and said the Indians did it to themselves, there was a sense of complete betrayal in Delhi. And they said, we can never trust these guys again. So one by one, various red lines were crossed. You may remember in Kargil 1999, we lost lives rather than cross the LOC in repelling the Pakistanis. In 2015, Uri, September 2016, Uri, we did cross the LOC and hit the launchpad bases from which these guys had come. 2019, Pulwama, we not only breached the LOC, we breached the international border and we hit Balakot. 2025, Pahalgam, we breached the LOC, we breached the international border, but we didn't hit some unpopulated area. We went right into the heart of Pakistani Punjab and hit places like Bahawalpur and Muridke, which were known terror headquarters of the Jaish-e-Mohammed and the LET, respectively. And we proved that we had precision munitions such that we hit specific buildings we were targeting in those complexes. Impressive, but also in every sense a step up. Now, we will learn lessons from this entire episode, because obviously there's some things that the government knows that you and I don't know, because we don't have access to classified information as to what worked and what didn't work. But I suspect that if there is another attack, and I hope it'll be some years away, that we will have an even more decisive response to show the Pakistanis it's not just that we will hit you and hit you hard, we will hit you at a level above where we hit you before. So don't take us for granted.
So how many levels before you get to the nuclear threshold? Because that was always conventionally the thing, that post-Kargil, that India and Pakistan can never have a full-fledged war because both of them have nuclear weapons. Has Sindoor and Uri, and you refer to Balakot, etc., has that shown that India has a range of options which are sub-nuclear?
Oh yeah, I mean look, Russia and Ukraine. Russia has nuclear weapons. Ukraine has even been bombing Moscow residential apartments, and the Russians have not threatened nukes. Nukes exist for doomsday scenarios. They're not meant to be sort of routinely peddled up every time you're losing or getting the bad end of a conflict. Far from it. And that's why nukes have never come into play since 1945. So my own view on this one is the Pakistanis can try and use it to bluff, threaten it to get India to back off or whatever. But other countries also tell them, listen, buddies, you use the nukes and you're toast, you're finished. I mean, your country is going to be wiped off the map, and what's more, we will come and disarm you if the Indians don't. I mean, because no one wants to see a world where nuclear war is a legitimate option. So I just don't see this happening right now. What I'm more concerned about is evaluating the respective merits of weapons, armaments, and technologies available to both sides. Very clearly, we've scored some very important points. International media suggests the other guys have scored some rather severe damage, partially because of Chinese technology. And I think we need to evaluate. We need to be prepared. We need to be sure that what we do next doesn't run afoul of things we can't respond to.
I do want to ask you, what do you think, in your view, led to the de-escalation? Because the American view, the Trump view, seems to be that he mediated. The government of India is at great pains to explain that that's not quite the case.
No, see, mediation is when you get both sides together and talk to each other and relay messages back and forth. I don't think that India would ever have encouraged or wanted that, and it's been against our policy forever. I think what would have happened, and you can look at the Twitter timeline of our foreign minister, he was talking to various foreign ministers. You can look at the Twitter timeline of the foreign ministers of these countries, including America, and they'll all be telling you, we spoke to so-and-so, we spoke to so-and-so. The fact that these conversations take place is normal diplomatic practice in the middle of any global crisis. What was said, I don't imagine at any stage, and I have no personal access, but I do not imagine, from what I know of Indian foreign policy, that our foreign minister would have said to anybody, can you please convey this message to Pakistan? That is simply not our style. I imagine what he would have said is, look, if the Pakistanis do this, we're going to do that. And if the Pakistanis behave in this way, we're going to behave in that way. And this kind of tough talk. And then the guys listening would call the Pakistanis and say, listen, we've just been talking to the Indians, and their intention appears to be this and this. Do you really want to take it that far? You know, that kind of conversation, that's not mediation, that's being helpful. Okay. That's helpful diplomacy. But as far as I'm concerned, India would not accept mediation, any other thing. A couple of other important things. We would not accept, and I'm afraid Trump's language implies this, any notion of equivalence between us and Pakistan. You don't equate the victim and the perpetrator. We have essentially been the victim of serial killings for 35 years, 36 years, since 1989. We have not. You know, one of the ironies facing the Pakistanis, we had terror bases to hit there. There are no terror bases in India to hit back. That's part of the problem that the Pakistanis are facing. So for us, any equivalence is unacceptable. As we've just discussed, talk about mediation is unacceptable because we don't believe in mediation. Mediation implies that we need others to do. We've got 3 languages in common with the Pakistanis. We can quarrel with them, discuss with them, and solve problems with them in English, in Hindustani, and in Punjabi. We don't really need anybody else to come in.
So why do you think Trump said what he said about the mediation and Kashmir?
He's a politician claiming credit. I wouldn't go beyond that. But if you look at the 2 other objections I have, I mean, I certainly don't want to see Kashmir internationalized. We have, over a very long period of time, established firmly the principle that Kashmir is no longer, from our point of view, an international dispute. It is a domestic problem of India, and we're solving it that way. It hasn't been on the agenda of the UN Security Council for a very long time. So the terrorist attack was engineered by the Pakistanis precisely to re-internationalize Kashmir. The fourth thing, Zaka, is the rehyphenation
Yeah.
of India and Pakistan and the global imagination. That's been the biggest setback.
You think that's
Because-
concerning?
That's very concerning. We had successfully, over the last 3 decades, ended that process. It started with Clinton. We said, please don't treat us as a waste stop on the way to Pakistan. Don't treat them as a waste stop on the way to us. Just this January, our chief guest for Republic Day was the Indonesian president. He planned naively to go on to Islamabad. We told him, sorry, sir, please don't do it. Otherwise, don't come to us. Because if you're coming to us, go somewhere else. So he went from here to Malaysia instead. That's the kind of dehyphenation that we had visibly and publicly demonstrated.
But Trump is now rehyphenating.
Yeah, and that's been most unfortunate. So what we need to do is educate Mr. Trump about our thinking and all this, so that he's very conscious next time he does these things, that he is actually taking one side of a dispute where he shouldn't. If at all he has to take a side, he should be on ours and not on theirs.
All right, one final word before we close this interview. You seem to be saying nice things about the government these days, and people are speculating that that's not necessarily, with political motives. Is it with political motives?
I speak for my country. I speak as an Indian. Zaka, whatever we all are, politically and otherwise, there is one identity that makes everything else possible. That makes it possible for you to be a journalist pursuing your profession. That makes it possible for me to be a politician pursuing my profession and winning votes. And that identity is that of India, guaranteed by the Constitution you and I began talking about.
So you're not
to my
joining
mind, my loyalty is to my country. And certainly, I am very proud of the fact that the Congress Party was so quick off the bat in saying we stand with the government and with the armed forces in this moment of crisis. That's what we should all do. Look, no one asked me to give any of these interviews or make any of these statements except the international and national news agencies that came to me. And I felt if I have this platform, I should use it for my country. That's all I did.
You're putting to rest any speculation amongst any quarters of the media that you're changing your political affiliation.
Listen, how many years have you seen the speculation, Zaka? I mean, I came into politics in 2009. Some members of my own party burned my effigy. It started then.
Okay.
So from 2009 to 2025, aren't you tired of these
For about
repeated
15
rumors?
years.
I mean, have I not shown constancy, loyalty, and commitment all this time to the values and principles I stand for? I might add, I've been articulating these values and principles for much longer than I've been in politics. And you can't just change overnight. I remain somebody who's a social liberal. I'm an economic libertarian, that is, I believe in free enterprise, and I've always done so, said so, which meant that the Congress Party, I was on the right as far as economics was concerned. I've always been a hawk on national security, because as I joked, I'm a dove who's been mugged by reality. I saw what was going on 26/11 and afterwards, and I just felt there were some things we simply had to do differently. I've written about all of India's strengths in my books on Indian foreign policy. I was the one who brought soft power into currency in our discourse. I've got a long paper trail, Zaka, and I hope that when it's all done and dusted, if you ask Grok to summarize who I am, they will tell you that I am indeed a nationalist, a liberal, and somebody who believes that we have to stand by the nation when necessary, and we should criticize it when necessary, both of which I've done.
We don't need Grok for that. We have your record of public service over the last many years. Thank you very much, Dr. Tharoor.
Appreciate it, Zach.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
On full display as a true nationalist, as a patriot, as he described himself, with his views which are very much in alignment with Prime Minister Modi, as he supported Operation Sindoor, also always maintaining that if this is not an era of war, this cannot be an era of terrorism either, a line that has also been echoed by Prime Minister Modi in his critical address yesterday. But with that, let's quickly bring you some breaking inputs coming in straight from Kashmir, as what we are learning is that there's been a big win for security forces in Jammu and Kashmir's Shopia, as 3 LET terrorists have been gunned down in an encounter. This comes after, based on specific intelligence of the Rashtriya Rifles unit about presence of terrorists in the general area of Shokal Kela, Shopia's Indian Army has launched a search and destroy operation. During the operation, terrorists opened heavy fire and fierce firefight ensued soon after, which resulted in the elimination of 3 Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorists, is what we are learning. Bringing us those breaking inputs is Ishan, who's joining me live. Ishan, if you could take us through what this entire operation's been called, Operation Kela. How did this ensue? Because we are being told that initially it was a search operation that later turned into an encounter after terrorists opened gunfire.
Well, it seems, Akansha, it was a precise operation. The input was clear that there's a presence of these militants in the forest area, and that's when teams of the Indian Army and the J&K police jointly launched an operation and didn't give them any time to respond or escape. It looks to us from our sources that it was a swift operation that was, done in Shopian. In fact, we are there and we'll show you the visuals right now. This is the outer circle of the operation where CRPF and J&K police is providing a cover and to ensure that nobody is allowed to go beyond this point. I will also give you an idea about how this area looks like. These are the mountains of Shopian. This is where they have generally tried to stay for a very long time. And these are becoming a kind of a hotbed, or we can call it a place of their choice to stay for a long time for these, militants, because they have been trying to stay here and trying to sustain for a very long time something we have been trusting that the forces have an idea that they are now trying to hide in these mountains. If Bashir can zoom in and show you the sort of topography that this area has, and this is where the encounter was carried out, though this is some distance away from the location, a kilometer to 2 or so, but this can give you an idea about how the area looks like. You have the dense forest area which covers it, but you will see that in shortly the police will make a statement about the operation. Given the fact that this is a big operation post Pahalgam attack, forces were looking for any vital leads or clue to gun down any one of those who have been part of Lashkar and who have been associated with Lashkar-e-Taiba, and that precisely has been done here. That they have shot dead Adnan and they have shot dead Shahid Kute. Both of them are locals. One is an A category and a top commander of the Lashkar-e-Taiba, or you call it TRF, and they have been trying to escape security forces. Their houses were also demolished, both of them post Pahalgam. If you recall those images where houses of militants were demolished by the government in a big action, and those are the ones who have been killed. And today they have the massive success has come, and this also means that a possible attack has been repulsed, because they could have been planning to carry out further strikes at the security forces, at defense establishments, civilians. But this means that that has been done away with, and the forces have been able to finally and successfully eliminate all of them, and the operation is still underway. But we have been told that there is no gunfire that is taking place, or the search operation is still on.
Right, and even though the operation is still underway, but do you think that Ishan, all the seizures that are currently being made of the arms and ammunition, will they be able to establish any links between the Pahalgam terror attack and this one, given that it's amply clear by now that TRF was involved and so was LET?
Well, police will give further details about if any of them is involved really in this operation, in this encounter, who has been killed. That if any one of them is involved in this particular, attack that happened in Pahalgam, whether any one of them was there at that time, whether anyone was one of those planners, whether any one of them had tried to execute or give a hint about the attack. That's for security forces to establish if there's a link, direct link between this Pahalgam incident and today's men who have been killed. But because they're local, so they would possibly have an idea
from the side of the Indian forces, Ishan?
Well, none. It was a swift operation, as I said earlier. The pinpoint input was the presence of these men in the forest area. They surrounded them and they gave them no chance to even retaliate. That's why there have been no casualties on behalf of the security forces. This is a clean and successful operation that has been conducted. AK-47 rifles. You will also notice, if you have those pictures that I have just sent in, and if you can watch them, you'll see that those bendable solar charging devices are also there, and then communication devices have also been seized from them. And this indicates the fact that they have the solar powered communication, particularly to charge their phone if they're sustaining for a very long time in the jungle area. You'll also notice the AK-47 rifles are also there, and this was a swift operation. That's why forces haven't had any casualties or injuries, and they have been able to conduct this operation very cleanly and very swiftly, and to ensure that all of those who are hiding in this particular hideout in the forest area of Shopian, that they are eliminated well on time.
On a day, Prime Minister announced that Operation Sindoor has set a doctrine for the Indian armed forces, especially when it comes to addressing terrorism. Is this operation also part of this, and is this a beginning of more operations to come in the valley?
Well, definitely. It seems like the operations are going to be thick and fast because ever since the Home Minister came here and he met the Lieutenant Governor, Chief Minister, and the security apparatus that operates in Jammu and Kashmir, it was very clear that there's a massive push from the Home Minister in terms of the security apparatus that they need to carry out more operations, particularly in those areas which have come under attack from these groups in the past as well. So what the security forces did, that they tried to maximize their input both on the ground technologically and through the human intelligence, because there are two kinds of intelligence that are directly available to them. One is the human intelligence called human-end, and second is a technological input which is called tech-end. So both of them were started by the security forces, and if you recall, around 1,500 overground workers plus were detained initially to get more information if there's a possibility of more of these men being hiding, or any of them had an idea that where they are. But it seems like the breakthrough came today when all of them, three of them, their input was received by the intelligence agencies and then it was shared with the security forces to carry out this massive scale operation. Because see, carrying out operation in the woods is not easy, particularly in the forest area, because you can't generate a technical input or a human intelligence there unless someone sees it. But definitely there's a push from the government to ensure the operations continue.
Stay with me, Ishan. We're getting in breaking inputs. In fact, this is a CNN News 18 exclusive with inputs shared by Security Affairs Editor Mr. Manoj Gupta on the Shopian encounter, as top security sources are claiming that the neutralization of terrorist Shahid Kutte marks a tactical victory for Indian security forces. Shahid Kutte, identified as the Chief Operational Commander of the Resistance Front and Lashkar-e-Taiba, he was from South Kashmir and was in touch with top leadership of Lashkar across border, including Sajid Jack. Eliminating Shahid disrupts TRF LET's operational planning, recruitment, and even the attack coordination. As Ishan has been highlighting, that the entire operation has been a difficult one given its terrain. On that note, let me quickly go back to Ishan, who continues to stay with us. So, Ishan, as you've been highlighting, this indeed is a massive breakthrough for our security forces. And what can we now hope to learn from this entire operation as far as drawing the dots between Pahalgam terror attack and the current state of terrorism in the valley is concerned?
Well, because Shahid was a senior member of this outfit, so there's a possibility that he might have had a fair idea about the operation that took place in Pahalgam, particularly the attack, that who they were, and whether there was any data that the security forces will be able to obtain from the devices. That will be interesting to see, or any other gadgets that have been taken from them from the spot, or any other forensic sample that can be collected from the scene can be of a crucial evidence for the NIA and the teams which are investigating the matter. Look, it's not just about killing them; it's also about trying to bridge a gap and trying to ensure that a link is established between the two, if there is any. Because Shahid, as a senior member of this group, he has been responsible for carrying out an attack. If you remember, in Shopian last year, there was an attack on a German couple, and a BJP leader later on was killed. So the police has said that they were both. He was involved in that kind of activity initially, and then he became slowly a senior member of the outfit, because there are less people from the local Kashmiri population who are part of this group, and you have seen the maximum presence of foreign militants on the ground. And that's why the worry is that whether all of these outfits have now infiltrated more number of Pakistan-based militants to Kashmir Valley, and the local input has decreased. And that is something which is being seen and looked into, and there is credible input with the security agencies that has been done. But what we know is that Shahid possibly was in touch with the handlers sitting across, and he was the one who was also getting directions from the handlers across to what activities they should do. All of this will be part of the investigation, but they are not the ones whose pictures have been released by the security agencies. And today even posters were pasted in Shopian about 3 of them who are all Pakistani, and the 20 lakh rupees reward is already put on their head for providing information. But yes, it's a major success nonetheless that the 3 of them have been killed who could have possibly carried out attack as security forces, and now that has been averted, and that is why this is a major success for the security force post Pahalgam attack.
What's outstanding right now and incredibly unbelievable is that despite Operation Sindoor, you still had these terrorists camping in the forests of Kashmir. And so what is one to make as far as the operation is concerned? It's still going to be ongoing. And how much of the terrain has contributed to the camping of these terrorists? Should we now expect more such operations and more terrorists to be camping around in the thick forests of Punjab?
Well, there is no doubt that agencies have now started to pick up a trend that these men have started to make new hideouts in the forest blocks of Kashmir as well. We initially saw these trends in Rajouri, Poonch, Kishtwar and other places of Jammu region where they tried to reactivate the strategy that they had in the 90s and early 2000 of staying in the forest area and then launching out attack at the security forces. But then now, because there has been a massive build-up in Rajouri, Poonch, so many of them have started to shift towards Kashmir because in Kashmir you hadn't seen such kind of activity taking place and most of them would take shelter in residential houses through OGWs, get food and ration. But now it seems like it's amply clear from the fact that multiple encounters have taken place in Kashmir, starting from Kwakarna, Ellen Gadol encounter in which army major, a captain and a DSP of J&K police were killed. So it makes very clear that they are hiding in the woods now and have made hideouts there. But
Ishan, I'm afraid I'll have to interrupt you there. My apologies. In fact, I'm joined in by Colonel Rohit Dev, a defense expert, joining us with more inputs on this big breaking news story. Colonel, at a time, Pakistan on the international stage has been trying to control the international narrative by questioning India in terms of the evidence of their own terrorists. We've already destroyed their LET terror camps, and today the killing of Shahid Kutte in that encounter is a direct evidence about TRF and LET's operational planning, recruitment and attack coordination on Indian soil.
There's no doubt about this coordinated effort of these two terrorist networks. But I'll tell you what the game is being played here. The game being played by Pakistan is that now they have been, wrapped on their knuckles. They cannot launch any strikes against India. And India has made it very clear that any terror attack emanating here will be an act of war. So what they're going to do is they've also raised the Kashmir bogey again, with the US administration. We have not entertained them for the last many years, but they have done so. So their now aim is to probably go back to the era of 90s and try to recreate and revive a story to say that these people are not ours, they are internal there. So you will hear all these noises coming in, but the good part is the people who are killed are identified with those networks in any which case. So this story is going to be misconstrued by Pakistan. It's going to be presented differently. And they're going to try to take that advantage because now the pressure is from May now till October, September end on October. They have to perform. So they cannot perform now by sending in more terrorists because Indian armed forces are super vigilant and anything done on the LC or the IB is going to be very, very well documented. So the OGWs who have been lying here for years, many years silently, are being probably paid more to come out in the open and prove their allegiance for the ideological part or for the money part. And you will find these people coming out. So the handful of OGWs now probably remnant in the area of Kashmir and the area you're talking about. And I think these people will also be smoked out by the forces. And as we speak, a lot of combing action is already on. And I think these people will be nabbed and nailed. And also that bounty placed on those 3 terrorists will fructify maybe within this month.
It's interesting that you say that because, Colonel, remember this entire Operation Keller is also largely going to be seen as a part of Operation Sindoor, as Prime Minister has rightly said, that it's a doctrine now set in stone that the operation's not over, our fight against terrorism will continue. But what's equally shocking is that these terrorists continue to camp despite the operation very much underway.
Yes, so they have had these safe weapons in the inhabited forest areas. Earlier, they used to come and either by force or favor seek habitation in the normal residential areas in J&K. So they will have all the ploys. And remember that these people somehow will be connected to families and friends, on both sides. And they will take that advantage when they can. And when they can't, they will hide. And that is where the entire focus is, because today with the technology, the kind of surveillance available, by kind of network of even satellites picking up, movements on ground today, and as we probably didn't discuss during the Sindoor initial part, a lot of assets were deployed all over Pakistan. So you imagine if we can cover Pakistan with those satellites, we can cover our area very well. So I think these niche technologies, the border fencing, is choking the effort of Pakistan to spruce up any more terrorism within India, and that is where they have to come out from the hideouts and start playing ball to prove a point, and that is when they will get hunted. So I think this is
Right.
going to be the
Right.
process in the making now.
First Operation Sindoor, now Operation Keller, another shot in the arm for India's armed forces. Many thanks to you, Colonel Dev, for joining in on CNN News 18. And with that, it's a quick wrap from my end. Thank you so much for watching. News and updates continue on the other side with Griha.
सस्ते वाले
long efforts to sanction Pakistan-based terror groups like Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. Publicly condemning Pakistan terror link would spoil the all-weather China-Pakistan alliance. So on the face, they want to look neutral. They want to look at as a peacemaker. They want
Right,
to
Sadan, do stay on with us. We are getting an important piece of breaking news now. We are learning that today early morning, Prime Minister Narendra Modi went to the Adampur Air Base. We are putting out these pictures. Remember, this is the second largest Air Force base that the country has. He has been briefed by the Air Force personnel there, and he also interacted with our brave Jawans. That detail has been brought to us by Aman Sharma, our colleague, who's giving us a sense of how important and strategic this visit by the Prime Minister really is. Yes, Aman.
Development, the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, early today morning was at the Adampur Air Base in Punjab, and this is very, very important because Pakistan had tried to target the Adampur Air Base with a ballistic missile, their Fateh missile, and it was spoiled in the air itself. The Adampur Air Base remained completely safe, and this was the trigger. This was the trigger that led India to launch strikes on Pakistani air bases, 11 of them, and destroy many of them, cause heavy damage to the Pakistani air bases. The Prime Minister today early morning, Adampur Air Base is just a bit away from Jalandhar, and the Prime Minister flying to the Adampur Air Base there, interacting with our Air Force warriors, our Air Force pilots, the bravehearts who have launched this fight against Pakistan, the Prime Minister. And these pictures are very, very telling because these pictures show that the Adampur Air Base was completely unharmed. The Prime Minister has gone there and taken a stock for himself. He has interacted with the people there and with the Air Force Jawans there, and this is very, very important, as I said, because the Adampur Air Base towards which this missile was launched by Pakistan, the Fateh missile, on the night of May 9th. This is what led to Mr. Narendra Modi take the huge decision that Indian Air Force and our BrahMos missiles will be launched towards Pakistan's Air Force bases. We attacked their Rawalpindi Air Base, the Islamabad Air Base, the Lahore Air Base, the Karachi Air Base, the Skardu Air Base. Multiple air bases of Pakistan were attacked, and this is what brought Pakistan to its knees, and it went to the US and then called up India asking for a ceasefire. So I think after the Prime Minister's big nation address to the nation last night, this particular visit now to the Adampur Air Base is extremely significant because it sends out a very strong message by India that, our Pakistan could not harm any of our air bases, all their drones, all their missiles. As the Prime Minister said yesterday, हवा में तिनके की तरह बिखर गए, कोई भी target पे land नहीं हो पाया. While when India launched its response, it not only damaged several of its air bases, it demolished Pakistan's morale. We broke this story yesterday as well that when the attack on the Noor.
Good afternoon and a warm welcome. You're watching CNN News 18 with me, Griha Atul. Days after Operation Sindoor, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has visited Punjab's Adampur Air Base, where he was briefed on the security situation and he also interacted with the forces. Remember, Adampur was among the Air Force stations of India that were on Pakistan's target following India's Operation Sindoor. Prime Minister's visit to Adampur Air Base is significant as the Pakistani army earlier had claimed to have damaged the air base following its border strikes overnight. Remember, this comes after a stern address of the Prime Minister's wherein he had warned Pakistan that India's new policy against terrorism is now the new normal. He also stressed that terrorism and talks cannot go hand in hand, and he reaffirmed that India would not now bow to any kind of nuclear saber rattling by Pakistan. The Prime Minister also saluted the valor of Indian armed forces for carrying out the operation and dedicated it to each and every mother, sister and daughter of the nation. The Prime Minister also has given out a clear message on new age warfare and doctrine against terror. in an indirect message to world leaders as well, including US President Donald Trump, seeking for dialogue between India and Pakistan. Prime Minister Modi has categorically stated that if there are going to be talks with Pakistan, they are going to be only on terror.
आतंकियों ने हमारी बहनों का सिंदूर उजाड़ा था, इसलिए भारत ने आतंक के ये हेडक्वार्टर्स उजाड़ दिए। भारत के इन हमलों में 100 से अधिक खूंखार आतंकवादियों को मौत के घाट उतारा गया। जो भारत के खिलाफ साजिशें करते थे, उन्हें भारत ने एक झटके में खत्म कर दिया। कोई भी न्यूक्लियर ब्लैकमेल भारत नहीं सहेगा। न्यूक्लियर ब्लैकमेल की आड़ में पनप रहे आतंकी ठिकानों पर भारत सटीक और निर्णायक प्रहार करेगा। हमारी घोषित नीति रही है, अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो टेररिज्म पर ही होगी। अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो पाक ऑक्युपाइड कश्मीर पीओके उस पर ही होगी।
Let me take this across to my colleagues Pallavi Ghosh and Aman Sharma, who are joining us on the broadcast. Pallavi, coming to you first, very strategic visit of the Prime Ministers at the Adampur Air Base. This is a messaging on part of the Prime Minister to Pakistan, particularly attacking that disinformation campaign that was emanating out of there, that was targeted at the Adampur Air Base. They could not target the air base, but they certainly wanted to do that with the kind of posturing that they were.
Yes, and the communication which is going in from the government right from the top, which is the Prime Minister, is that all is well and India has nothing to be afraid of. And he, of course, saluting the armed forces. But more than that, you're absolutely right, the misinformation campaign, because this is another battle which India has been fighting against Pakistan, which is peddling lies that we were destroyed, that there was a lot of harm which was done as far as Indian soldiers are concerned. And this was a war which is actually won in by Pakistan. So those kind of narratives have been constantly fact-checked by the government, and I think the lead finally was taken by the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister's timing of address to the nation yesterday and today also, when he went to the Adampur Air Base, and he's going to speak at around 3:30 p.m. today. Whatever he spoke at the Adampur Air Base to the soldiers are going to be, of course, beamed live, and that is also going to be extremely significant. Look, when you are fighting a war, what is very important, and especially if it's an ongoing war, as the Prime Minister has made it very clear, just as all the military officers did, that Operation Sindoor is not over. It is just paused. We're just waiting and watching Pakistan's behavior. Should there be yet another terror act by them, it's going to be seen as an act of war. So the Prime Minister did give that warning sternly to the world, also telling the international community, please don't expect us to sit across the negotiating table. Our soldiers were targeted. The drones were flown over the airspace of India. Attempts were being made by Pakistan. And this is something which is unacceptable. So terror and trade, water and blood cannot be mixed, was a very clear-cut, precise comment coming in from the Prime Minister. Today, when he went to the Adampur Air Base, again, it's a morale-boosting exercise, because at the end of the day, any of these military operations are conducted by the people in air, water, land, and that is what the Prime Minister wants to reassure them, that the nation salutes them, the nation is paying the tributes to them, and that the Prime Minister has 100% faith in the efficacy of our armed forces. And I think that speech with the Prime Ministers will be beamed at around 3:30 p.m. is going to be, in that sense, very poignant as well as emotional.
Absolutely, Aman. As we await that speech of the Prime Ministers at 3:30, we also have to look at that security meet that is going to be chaired by the Prime Minister tomorrow at his residence. All of this after his visit, a very strategic one at the Adampur Air Base. So how does one look at both these things?
Well, yes, there's a cabinet meeting tomorrow. There could also be a CCS, but that happens every week. So this will be the first one, of course, after the pause has been put on these hostilities. Coming on the point earlier, which you were asking, about the significance of the PM's visit to the Adampur Air Base. See, this is the second biggest air base of the country. It had a key role to play in the attacks we made on Pakistan's military infrastructure as well as the Pakistan terror infrastructure as part of Operation Sindoor on May the 7th. This is also a base where our S-400, the Russian-made S-400, one of the squadrons is stationed. It is right about 80-90 kilometers from the border near Jalandhar, the Adampur Air Base. So very, very significant air base. Even more significant is the Prime Minister's visit because Pakistan had dared to shoot a missile towards the Adampur Air Base during the ongoing conflict. India had brought down that missile, but Griha, the firing of that missile towards the Adampur Air Base, the multiple attacks they tried to do against the Adampur Air Base was the trigger for India to go after the 10 to 11 Pakistani air bases and cause heavy damage there. So though Pakistan could not damage any of our military installations, we inflicted heavy damage on the other side. The PM's visit, Griha, also busts these lies of Pakistan that the Adampur air base was severely damaged. You know, the Prime Minister is there, the Pakistan offensive could not succeed, and this visit speaks volumes about that. I think also very significant is Griha in the Prime Minister's background in some of these pictures. You see the S-400, you see the MiG-29 fighter aircraft. This is also India's message to the world that Russian equipment which India has bought from Russia, be it the S-400s, despite US opposition by both the former Trump and the former Biden administration, that they would put sanctions on India if India gets S-400s from Russia or the MiG-29, which has been a workhorse. These weapons from Russia have served India very well in the current conflict against Pakistan, and I think those pictures are also sending out that message. I am told a very rousing address was made by the Prime Minister at the Adampur Air Base, which will be broadcast at 3:30 p.m.
And that is a messaging also for America, in a sense, a very important point that Aman is raising over there. Because remember, after these deliverables that were arrived at by Russia, this is 4 years back, this is the first public image that has been put out of the S-400 launcher as the Prime Minister visited the Adampur Air Base, and that's how significant it is. So it's not just messaging for Pakistan, it is a messaging also for the US in the same breath. The Prime Minister has also highlighted how India struck deep inside Pakistan, adding that the Pakistan government pleaded for a ceasefire from its international allies, namely the US. Let's take a look.
हमारे सैन्य ठिकानों को निशाना बनाया, लेकिन इसमें भी पाकिस्तान खुद बेनकाब हो गया। पाकिस्तान की तैयारी सीमा पर वार की थी, लेकिन भारत ने पाकिस्तान के सीने पर वार कर दिया। 10 मई की दोपहर को पाकिस्तानी सेना ने हमारे डीजीएमओ को संपर्क किया। तब तक हम आतंकवाद के इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को बड़े पैमाने पर तबाह कर चुके। हमने पाकिस्तान के आतंकी और सैन्य ठिकानों पर अपनी जवाबी कार्रवाई को अभी सिर्फ स्थगित किया है।
That's an important thing that was underlined by the Prime Minister, that Operation Sindoor has only been halted. There are military level talks that are happening between both the countries. The DGMOs in India have briefed the press not once but twice. They have mentioned and reiterated this very point that the Prime Minister also was making, that India managed to attack Pakistan deep inside their territory from within our borders. They did not even have to cross the border along the LC or the international border for that matter. That's how important all this is, Pallavi, considering this entire posturing by India, messaging not just to Pakistan and against Pakistan's disinformation, but also a messaging for the US.
Well, I mean, I think it's just a pause. It's not over. And I think the Prime Minister and the government and the military officers have repeatedly made the point. But I think the real battle also in a sense begins now, because Pakistan obviously is on a back foot. There's clear-cut evidence which has been provided to the world and to them that the Pakistani claims that they won the war is absolutely not true. Pakistan has also been claiming that, our bases have been hurt and, there has been injury on our side. There has been a massive destruction of our equipments. I think think the Prime Minister's visit to the Adampur Air Base is significant and telling, and with multiple messaging. First of all, of course, a morale boosting exercise for all the armed forces, because if this is going to be an ongoing operation which has just gone in for a pause, our armed forces will need to be told and are also reassured that the entire country values them, which is why the PM ended his address by saying Bharat Mata Ki Jai thrice over. He began by paying his tribute to them. That is one messaging. You know, the Prime Minister, for example, has often gone to a Siachen. Remember during Diwali. Again, that's a powerful messaging that, you know, when the rest of India is celebrating Diwali, the soldiers who are positioned at Siachen, cut off from their family, they should also feel that there's someone who is backing them up, and the Prime Minister himself. So those are those powerful messaging. Second, look at the kind of pictures we are seeing on the Prime Minister. He's putting it out from his own social media handle. Now, Adampur Air Base was also one of those which Pakistan tried to target, but of course they were unsuccessful. And I think the Prime Minister's visit over there also made it very clear, zero damage. There was no damage done to us. So Pakistan's claim to the world that, oh, we've won and India is on a back foot is completely, that lie has been busted, and those pictures are there to see already.
Absolutely. Aman, that's again a very important point, considering the Prime Minister is at the front lines. He's standing one with the forces. He's standing and he is where it matters the most, which is very, very starkly contrasting with the Pakistani line, where we are hearing of reports that the Pak General Asim Munir is hiding in bunkers. There is a blowing of trumpet for some reason that is happening from the Pakistani side ever since that announcement of the ceasefire understanding. But here we see how that morale boosting exercise is there from the principal and prime leader of the country, which is very, very important. And of course, he's saying how the armed forces and the valor of the armed forces is well saluted by not just him, but also by the entire country.
Well, absolutely. And you know, all those points made by the Prime Minister in his address to the nation yesterday, I think a very rousing, a very inspirational address made by the Prime Minister yesterday, where he directly, addressed the forces, praised their bravery, their valor. He said that every aspect of the war with Pakistan, the conflict with Pakistan, India won it decisively. Be it the attack on the terrorist infrastructure, which he called the global headquarters of terror in Bahawalpur or Muridke, or be it the subsequent airstrikes on the major air bases of Pakistan, completely exposing, their air defenses and how India could strike deep inside Pakistan, even from its own territory. The arsenal we have built over the years since 2019, specifically, the S-400s which have been added to our arsenal, the Rafales with the Scalp missiles which have been added, the BrahMos missile which has been added, all these weapons coming together, to really teach Pakistan a lesson. And the Prime Minister very significantly saying, also I think that was a message to the forces, because Sama saying that why has India ended action when it was so much in an advantageous position. The Prime Minister clearly saying this is only a pause, and this pause has come because Pakistan panicked, Pakistan ran across the world, Pakistan called us, pleading us to stop, saying they will act against terror, so India has stopped. But this is not the final stop, this is just a pause. We will keep on, we are on full-time alert. We will check Pakistan's behavior here on, and the only talks with Pakistan will be on the issue of terror and on the issue of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. So I think the Prime Minister said what he had said yesterday, but this visit which is happening today to Adampur is extremely significant. As you correctly say, we have not seen any visuals of any senior Pakistani official visiting any of the air bases which have been struck by India. But here we have the Prime
because
Minister.
there are craters left of it, Aman, and that is an evidence that has been given by India as opposed to the Pakistani side. No evidences whatsoever have come from that side. But India did not have to go into any kind of AI imagery or any kind of repurposing of video clips that Pakistan has been doing to run that disinformation campaign, to run that propaganda. That's a question I would like to take with my colleague Arun Dhanta, who's also now joining us on the broadcast. Arun, one visit to the country's second most important air base, the Adampur air base, was enough to bury that entire propaganda that's coming in from Pakistan. One of the most significant one, where they said that the entire airbase in Adampur has been rendered inefficient for years. All of that has been dissed with this one visit of the Prime Minister.
Well, that's right. Pakistan is completely exposed here. They try to create this narrative for their audiences, but without any proof. And here, on the other hand, India have all the proofs, and the imageries were shown in the press conferences of the army, that how they penetrated deep in Pakistan, especially their military installations which we have destroyed and which is non-functional now. It will take some time for them to actually recover and make some sort of improvement there to make it functional. But Prime Minister Modi's visit to Adampur Air Base is very significant. Of course, it's a morale booster for our Air Force. All those people who were not only those who in fact inflicted those missiles or that attack on the military establishment or on the terror structure in Pakistan, but also who were holding the fort at the Adampur air base, because that air base was something which was targeted by Pakistan, which was foiled by India. S-400, in fact, which we saw in the backdrop of the Prime Minister Modi's photograph. That was also a message to Pakistan, because what they claimed that they destroyed India's air defense system, which is, of course, S-400. So the message was very clear from the Prime Minister. And also, of course, Prime Minister Modi would want to take the first-hand experience and the feedback from the Air Force there by visiting this airbase. And also, Griha, yesterday when I was here at 7 LKM, when that meetings were taking place, the core group, which in fact has been formed, including Rajnath Singh, Prime Minister Modi, NSA Ajit Doval, Tri-Services Chief, CDS, all of them were present in that meeting. But subsequently, when all of them left, it was only Prime Minister, Air Chief, and the NSA Ajit Doval were staying back. Nobody knew at that point in time why that meeting was taking place. But today, I think it is amply clear that Prime Minister Modi wanted to visit, and he ensured that he, goes there, with our Air Force people. And in fact, the videos that we see, in which it is not something which is recorded in an auditorium or something. It was quite open in the base of the Air Force, which very clearly shows that there was no damage. Forget about any other thing to our airbase. There was not even a damage to ground, which we in fact showed, to Pakistan, that how we have inflicted damages to their military stations in Pakistan.
Absolutely, and not the other way around. I'd like to request all my colleagues to continue to stay with us as we'll throw more light on the Prime Minister's visit at the Adampur Air Base. But right now, we're going into a very short break.
Long efforts to sanction Pakistan-based terror groups like Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. Publicly condemning Pakistan terror link would spoil the all-weather China-Pakistan alliance. So on the face, they want to look neutral. They want to look at as a peacemaker. They want
Sadan, do stay on with us. We are getting an important piece of breaking news now. We are learning that today early morning, Prime Minister Narendra Modi went to the Adampur Air Base. We are putting out these pictures. Remember, this is the second largest Air Force base that the country has. He has been briefed by the Air Force personnel there, and he also interacted with our brave Jawans. That detail has been brought to us by Aman Sharma, our colleague, who's giving us a sense of how important and strategic this visit by the Prime Minister really is. Yes, Aman.
Development, the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, early today morning was at the Adampur Air Base in Punjab, and this is very, very important because Pakistan had tried to target the Adampur Air Base with a ballistic missile, their Fateh missile, and it was spoiled in the air itself. The Adampur Air Base remained completely safe, and this was the trigger. This was the trigger that led India to launch strikes on Pakistani air bases, 11 of them, and destroy many of them, cause heavy damage to the Pakistani air bases. The Prime Minister today early morning, Adampur Air Base is just a bit away from Jalandhar, and the Prime Minister flying to the Adampur Air Base there, interacting with our Air Force warriors, our Air Force pilots, the bravehearts who have launched this fight against Pakistan, the Prime Minister. And these pictures are very, very telling, because these pictures show that the Adampur Air Base was completely unharmed. The Prime Minister has gone there and taken a stock for himself. He has interacted with the people there and with the Air Force Jawans there. And this is very, very important, as I said, because the Adampur Air Base towards which this missile was launched by Pakistan, the Fateh missile, on the night of May 9th. This is what led to Mr. Narendra Modi take the huge decision that Indian Air Force and our BrahMos missiles will be launched towards Pakistan's Air Force bases. We attacked their Rawalpindi Air Base, the Islamabad Air Base, the Lahore Air Base, the Karachi Air Base, the Skardu Air Base. Multiple air bases of Pakistan were attacked, and this is what brought Pakistan to its knees, and it went to the US and then called up India asking for a ceasefire. So I think after the Prime Minister's big nation address to the nation last night, this particular visit now to the Adampur Air Base is extremely significant because it sends out a very strong message by India that, our Pakistan could not harm any of our air bases, all their drones, all their missiles. As the Prime Minister said yesterday, हवा में तिनके की तरह बिखर गए, कोई भी target पे land नहीं हो पाया. While when India launched its response, it not only damaged several of its air bases, it demolished Pakistan's morale. We broke this story yesterday as well that when the attack on the Noor Khan Air Base happened, the Pakistani Army Chief Asim Munir hid in a bunker for almost 2 hours, and now Pakistan is even thinking about changing its its headquarters from Rawalpindi. So these are big developments. I think the Prime Minister's visit after his address yesterday also.
Right.
Hailing the valor of our Air Force, our Army and our Navy, and now Prime Minister visiting.
Welcome back. You're watching CNN News 18 with me, Griha. We're talking about Adampur, one of India's key forward operating air bases. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited that very significant air base this morning. His visit to the Adampur air base has reinforced India's military preparedness along the India-Pakistan border. We have our colleagues Aman, Pallavi and Payal discuss that very strategic visit of the Prime Minister's. Aman, coming to you first. Considering there was a very important imagery of the S-400 and MiG-29 in the backdrop of where the Prime Minister stood from, how significant is that messaging?
It is extremely significant, Greha. The S-400, if we go a bit into the history of buying S-400, 2018, Modi government had signed this billion-dollar deal with Russia to get the S-400s, and at that time, the Donald Trump administration and subsequently the Joe Biden administration had threatened India with sanctions. They had said we are deeply uncomfortable with India buying S-400s from Russia. They should not go ahead. But Mr. Modi stuck to his guns, and we got 3 squadrons of the S-400 since 2020. One of these is stationed at the Adampur Air Base, and this is extremely significant because Adampur Air Base is one of the forward air bases near Jalandhar, very close to Pakistan, and that is why India anticipated that one day we'll need these S-400s, and it has proved its utility in gold in the current ongoing conflict with Pakistan. All these missiles that were fired by Pakistan on the night of May 9th were all neutralized by India using the S-400 and other air defense weapons, and that is why I think the Prime Minister's image with the S-400 in the background is very, very significant messaging that, these Russian-made weapons have served us very, very well, and, it's also a message maybe to America that, you told us not to buy them, but now this is the weapon that has proved to be our, impregnable shield. I think the Prime Minister could, at the Adampur Air Base was also, had come under multiple attacks from Pakistan, including this report which had come that even a missile was fired by Pakistan towards the Adampur Air Base, which was brought down by India, and that was the trigger for Mr. Modi to launch this big offensive against the Pakistani air bases, which we saw, huge damage being caused on the Pakistani side. So I think messaging of the Russian weapons, the MiG-29s are workhorse, or the S-400 is very significant.
We also have Arun Danta join us. So Arun, do you think that that entire debunking of the Pakistani narrative has been done by this visit of the Prime Minister's?
Well, absolutely, because we know that how Pakistani were trying to create that narrative in their country that, look, they have damaged India's airbase, and that too Adampur airbase. It's a very significant and a very important airbase as far as India is concerned. Remember, this airbase was in fact tried to target in 1965 and 71 also. So this airbase is also an airbase which is protecting, of course, the states like Jammu Kashmir, Punjab, Rajasthan. It is just 100 kilometers away from the border between India and Pakistan. And Prime Minister Modi's visit, that's why it's very significant that he's going that close to the border, showing that message, solidarity with the forces, and also, of course, a message to the Pakistan that, look, there is the false propaganda that you have created. There is no damage to our to our air base here in Adampur. And in fact, it was one of the air bases which has played significant roles in the past was also Griha. And we have seen that how Prime Minister Modi, in fact, his address yesterday spoke about the valor and the courage that our forces have shown, whether it is Army, Air Force or Navy. They were on their toes. The alacrity level was at the top. And in fact, still, our forces have been reiterating this fact that they are just, one misadventure away of Pakistan. The full freedom, the carte blanche has been given by Prime Minister Modi to all the forces. And in fact, he reiterated this thing yesterday in that speech. If Pakistan does anything, then India will hit back. As he's been saying that agar wahan se goli aayegi to yahan se gola barsega. So that's the kind of response which India is talking about. And Prime Minister Modi made it amply clear yesterday in his speech, and also by visiting, going amongst the Air Force people there at the Adampur Air Base.
Absolutely. And Pallavi, this visit is very significant because it is shaping the public perception not just back home but also internationally. It speaks volumes of India's military might. It speaks volumes about the Prime Minister, the supreme leader of the country, standing with his forces, going to the front line and doing that.
Yes, absolutely. And given the modern age, modern era, wars are also fought as much on the battlefield and in the airspace as also on the digital space for that matter. Communication becomes the mantra, communication becomes the strategy. And the misinformation war which is being peddled by Pakistan along with, say, Turkey, China and many other countries, which seem to be a few countries, I would say, on the side of Pakistan. I think India stands tall on this. India has multiple messages. I'm not just talking about the Prime Minister's speech of yesterday, but I think when he's going to be there at the Adampur Air Base, and that speech is going to be beamed live at 3:30. Again, the twin speeches will have multiple messaging. One, of course, to the people of our country and our armed forces. That's definitely important. It's also more important with the menacing words of the PM for Pakistan that we can talk, but only when it's about terror and POK. But I would say in the context of the international community, please don't think that India is a third world country. It's just another war. This is something which we have been fighting for years, and we have suffered. We have faced terror acts, and at every level, as a democratic country, we've actually given proof of the kind of terror acts stoked by Pakistan. And this time, India means business. The Prime Minister says his government means business. We are not going to be talking across the table till you don't talk about terror and POK. If the world is ready to listen to this fact, then you please don't give us any sermons. I think that was an important messaging which went in from the Prime Minister. Later today, in a short while from now, when he's going to be speaking at the Adampur Air Base 1, again busting that lie of Pakistan that they damage or try to damage many of our air bases, that's going to be proved wrong. Those pictures don't lie. The pictures are evidence enough.
Yes.
But a morale boosting exercise, but also the muscle flexing of India, that we are Saksham, we are Atmanirbhar, and we can stand up to the world.
Absolutely. And Payal, we are putting out that timeline for our viewers very, very shortly. In just about 5 minutes from now, that address will be beamed live of the Prime Minister's, the second one. But in his first address to the nation, he was giving a very stern warning out to Pakistan that India is not there to tolerate any kind of nuclear saber rattling, any kind of nuclear blackmail that might just come from that side of the border. So this particular visit to the Adampur Air Base, because remember, this holds a huge amount of significance of India's resilience, India's military might, and we're not just talking about the 2025 war with Pakistan that we have seen so far. A ceasefire has been arrived at, but even in the previous wars, particularly 71, this particular air base was really significant.
The style of Narendra Modi, Griha, has always been that he never names the enemy nation. He doesn't name China. He doesn't name Pakistan on most occasions. But yesterday in his speech, his address to the nation, he took Pakistan's name 32 times when he spoke, essentially trying to drive home the message that this is the enemy nation, and we will not let them have anything easy. They have bled us, multiple times, including that in Pahalgam. But we have to bleed them with 1,000 cuts. That's been the theory that the Modi government has really followed. That we are not the first people to attack anybody. That's not our sanskar. That's not our sanskriti. But eventually, if anybody attacks her, we are not, those kind of people who will actually offer you my second cheek to slap as well. We of course come from the land of a Gandhi, but there are certain principles on which we do not really agree as far as that is concerned. Multiple steps coming in from the Prime Minister telling the people of the country what really transpired from 22nd April till now. what has gone through in that. Not to forget, the Prime Minister on 2 occasions lauded the armed forces, the security forces, for the way they've really been able to keep the country safe as well. His talk today with the Jawans will be extremely crucial because the air warriors have had a lot of role to play in this particular combat fight against Pakistan as well. How did they go about it? Possibly the Prime Minister will also learn and understand from them in terms of their experience. And his photograph, which came out this morning from the Prime Minister's office when he's standing against the aircraft, and the tag which reads that this is why the enemy pilots do not get full sleep or are not able to sleep.
Absolutely.
That's the might of the Indian armed forces. It has been on display all around. Of course, multiple people had questioned India's procuring certain arms from certain countries, like Aman was just explaining.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, India is a country which is Atmanirbhar. It is India and India's own equipment, India's own drones that have come to the rescue as far as the country is concerned. So obviously, at a time when the world thought that India could actually be used only to procure defense equipment and get all kind of things done, India has decided that I will produce my own defense equipment as well. So one stern warning to the nation of Pakistan, that we will not let blood and trade happen together, and we will not give you a single drop of water no matter what. If anybody across the globe wants us to talk to Pakistan, it will only be on terror and POK.
Absolutely. And Aman, the reason why I mentioned the other Indo-Pak wars of 65 and 71, we do know the strategic significance of the Adampur air base. It has been battle tested, and that is particularly the reason the disinformation campaign really was coming in from Pakistan. During this skirmish and this war between India and Pakistan, we've seen that one word come about, that is PSYOP, psychological warfare, particularly coming from the Pakistani side. They wanted to put out an agenda that they have managed to strike India where it hurts the most. And hence this visit of the Prime Minister to that very airbase that they claim to have struck really holds a lot of significance.
Oh, absolutely. The Adampur Air Base is one of the most important air bases of India. Even in the 65 war and the 71 war, this base played a very, very important role. And even in the current conflict, I must tell you, a very important role has been played by the Adampur Air Base. And that is why I think this Pakistan, first the PSYOPs came. They actually fired a missile which was brought down, and then the claims that came in Pakistan told the global media that they had destroyed the Adampur Air Base of India. On the morning of 10th also, India had put out stamp dated pictures to show that the Adampur Air Base was completely safe. And now the Prime Minister's visit there completely busts the Pakistan's lies in this regard. It completely exposes that whatever Pakistan has been claiming is without proof. We have provided Griha satellite images of each of the Pakistani Air Force bases which have been damaged by us. In fact, one of the air bases is not even functional, and in no time was issued by Pakistan to say the runway won't be operational for at least the next 10 to 15 days. So it's very, very clear that Pakistan had no proof. It only had these PSYOPs. The Prime Minister's visit today, one, busts the Pakistan lies, and I think his speech today, which will start in the next few minutes, also will be a big morale booster for the forces, for the Air Force, for the Army, for the Navy. He's going to thank them in person for the bravery and the valor they have shown. I could see him, patting the back of many Air Force warriors when he was in Adampur earlier today. So that is, I think, the man being amidst the forces, it's a big thing, and that is what the Prime Minister believes in.
Absolutely, a very reassuring visit of the country's Prime Minister to be one with our nation's brave hearts. Now, Prime Minister Modi, in his address last night, had also highlighted how India showed the world its technological superiority in tackling terror emanating out of Pakistan. Let's take a look at what he had to say about that.
हमने रेगिस्तानों और पहाड़ों में अपनी क्षमता का शानदार प्रदर्शन किया और साथ ही न्यू एज वॉरफेयर में भी अपनी श्रेष्ठता सिद्ध की। इस ऑपरेशन के दौरान हमारे मेड इन इंडिया हथियारों की प्रामाणिकता सिद्ध हुई। आज दुनिया देख रही है 21वीं सदी के वॉरफेयर में मेड इन इंडिया डिफेंस इक्विपमेंट्स, इसका समय आ चुका है।
माता की इस जयघोष की ताकत अभी अभी दुनिया ने देखी है। भारत माता की जय ये सिर्फ उद्घोष नहीं है, ये देश के हर उस सैनिक की शपथ है जो मां भारती की मान मर्यादा के लिए जान की बाजी लगा देता है। ये देश के हर उस नागरिक की आवाज है जो देश के लिए जीना चाहता है, कुछ कर गुजरना चाहता है। भारत माता की जय मैदान में भी गूंजती है और मिशन में भी। जब भारत के सैनिक मां भारती की जय बोलते हैं तो दुश्मन के कलेजे कांप जाते हैं। जब हमारे ड्रोन दुश्मन के किले की दीवारों को ढहा देते हैं, जब हमारी मिसाइलें सनसनाती हुई निशाने पर पहुंचती हैं तो दुश्मन को सुनाई देता है भारत माता की। जब हम सूरज उगा देते हैं तो दुश्मन को दिखाई देता है भारत माता की जय। जब हमारी फौजें न्यूक्लियर ब्लैकमेल की धमकी की हवा निकाल देती हैं तो आकाश से पाताल तक एक ही बात गूंजती है, भारत माता की जय। साथियों, वाकई आप सभी ने कोटि कोटि भारतीयों का सीना चौड़ा कर दिया है। हर भारतीय का माथा गर्व से ऊंचा कर दिया है। आपने इतिहास रच दिया है। और मैं आज सुबह सुबह आपके बीच आया हूं आपके दर्शन करने के लिए। जब वीरों के पैर धरती पर पड़ते हैं तो धरती धन्य हो जाती है। जब वीरों के दर्शन का अवसर मिलता है तो जीवन धन्य हो जाता है। और इसलिए मैं आज सुबह सुबह ही आपके दर्शन करने के लिए यहां पहुंचा। आज से अनेक दशक बाद भी जब भारत के इस पराक्रम की चर्चा होगी तो उसके सबसे प्रमुख अध्याय आप और आपके साथी होंगे। आप सभी वर्तमान के साथ ही देश की आने वाली पीढ़ियों की और उनके लिए भी नई प्रेरणा बन गए हैं। मैं वीरों की इस धरती से आज एयरफोर्स, नेवी और आर्मी के सभी जाबाजों, बीएसएफ के अपने शूरवीरों को सैल्यूट करता हूं।
भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय!
आपके पराक्रम की वजह से आज ऑपरेशन सिंदूर की गूंज
हर कोने में सुनाई दे रही है। इस पूरे ऑपरेशन के दौरान हर भारतीय आपके साथ खड़ा रहा। हर भारतीय की प्रार्थना आप सभी के साथ रही। आज हर देशवासी अपने सैनिकों, उनके परिवारों के प्रति कृतज्ञ है, उनका ऋणी है। साथियों, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर कोई सामान्य सैन्य अभियान नहीं है। ये भारत की नीति, नियत और निर्णायक क्षमता की त्रिवेणी है। भारत बुद्ध की भी धरती है और गुरु गोविंद सिंह जी की भी धरती है। गुरु गोविंद सिंह जी ने कहा था, 1.25 लाख से एक लड़ाऊं, चिड़ियन ते मैं बात तुड़ाऊं, तबे गुरु गोविंद सिंह नाम कहाऊं। अधर्म के नाश और धर्म की स्थापना के लिए शस्त्र उठाना, ये हमारी परंपरा है। इसलिए जब हमारी बहनों, बेटियों का सिंदूर छीना गया, तो हमने आतंकियों के फन को उनके घर में घुस के कुचल दिया।
भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय!
वो कायरों की तरह छिप कर आए थे, लेकिन भूल गए उन्होंने जिसे ललकारा है वो हिंद की सेना है। आपने उन्हें सामने से हमला करके मारा। आपने आतंक के तमाम बड़े अड्डों को मिट्टी में मिला दिया। 9 आतंकी ठिकाने बर्बाद हुए। 100 से ज्यादा आतंकियों की मौत हुई। आतंक के आकाओं को अब समझ आ गया है, भारत की ओर नजर उठाने का एक ही अंजाम होगा, तबाही। भारत में निर्दोष लोगों का खून बहाने का एक ही अंजाम होगा, विनाश और महाविनाश। जिस पाकिस्तानी सेना के भरोसे ये आतंकी बैठे थे, भारत की सेना, भारत की एयरफोर्स और भारत की नेवी ने उस पाकिस्तानी सेना को भी धूल चटा दी है।
भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय!
आपने पाकिस्तानी फौज को भी बता दिया है, पाकिस्तान में ऐसा कोई ठिकाना नहीं है जहां बैठकर आतंकवादी चैन की सांस ले सके। हम घर में घुसकर मारेंगे और बचने का एक मौका तक नहीं देंगे। और हमारे ड्रोन्स, हमारी मिसाइलें, उनके बारे में तो सोचकर पाकिस्तान को कई दिन तक नींद नहीं आएगी। कौशल दिखलाया चालों में, कौशल दिखलाया चालों में, उड़ गया भयानक भालों में, निर्भीक गया वह ढालों में, सरपट दौड़ा करवालों में। ये पंक्तियां महाराणा प्रताप के प्रसिद्ध घोड़े चेतक पर लिखी गई है, लेकिन ये पंक्तियां आज के आधुनिक भारतीय हथियारों पर भी फिट बैठती है। मेरे वीर साथियों, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर से आपने देश का आत्मबल बढ़ाया है, देश को एकता के सूत्र में बांधा है, और आपने भारत की सीमाओं की रक्षा की है। भारत के स्वाभिमान को नई ऊंचाई दी है। साथियों, आपने वो किया जो अभूतपूर्व है, अकल्पनीय है, अद्भुत है। हमारी एयरफोर्स ने पाकिस्तान में इतना डीप आतंक के अड्डों को टारगेट किया, सिर्फ 20-25 मिनट के भीतर सीमा पार लक्ष्यों को भेदना, बिल्कुल पिन पॉइंटेड टारगेट्स को हिट करना, ये सिर्फ एक मॉडर्न टेक्नोलॉजी से लेस प्रोफेशनल फोर्स ही कर सकती है। आपकी स्पीड और प्रिसीजन इस लेवल की थी कि दुश्मन हक्का बक्का रह गया। उसको पता ही नहीं चला कि कब उसका सीना छलनी हो गया। साथियों, हमारा लक्ष्य पाकिस्तान के अंदर टेरर हेडक्वार्टर्स को हिट करने का था, आतंकियों को हिट करने का था, लेकिन पाकिस्तान ने अपने यात्री विमानों को सामने करके जो साजिश की रची, मैं कल्पना कर सकता हूं वो पल कितना कठिन होगा जब सिविलियन एयरक्राफ्ट दिख रहा है। और मुझे गर्व है, आपने बहुत सावधानी से, बहुत सतर्कता से सिविलियन एयरक्राफ्ट को नुकसान किए बिना कमाल करके दिखाया, उसका जवाब दे दिया आपने।
भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय!
मैं गर्व के साथ कह सकता हूं कि आप सभी अपने लक्ष्यों पर बिल्कुल खरे उतरे हैं। पाकिस्तान में आतंकी ठिकानों और उनके एयरबेस ही तबाह नहीं हुए, बल्कि उनके नापाक इरादे और उनके दुस्साहस दोनों की हार हुई है। साथियों, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर से बौखलाए दुश्मन ने इस एयरबेस के साथ साथ हमारे अनेक एयरबेस पर हमला करने की कई बार कोशिश की। बार बार उसने हमें टारगेट किया, लेकिन पाक के नापाक इरादे हर बार नाकाम हो गए। पाकिस्तान के ड्रोन, उसके यूएवी, पाकिस्तान के एयरक्राफ्ट और उसकी मिसाइलें हमारे सशक्त एयर डिफेंस के सामने सबके सब ढेर हो गए। मैं देश के सभी एयरबेस से जुड़ी लीडरशिप की, भारतीय वायुसेना के हर एयर वॉरियर की हृदय से सराहना करता हूं। आपने वाकई बहुत शानदार काम किया है। साथियों, आतंक के विरुद्ध भारत की लक्ष्मण रेखा अब एकदम स्पष्ट है। अब फिर कोई टेरर अटैक हुआ तो भारत जवाब देगा, पक्का जवाब देगा। ये हमने सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक के समय देखा है, एयर स्ट्राइक के समय देखा है, और अब तो ऑपरेशन सिंदूर भारत का न्यू नॉर्मल है। और जैसा मैंने कल भी कहा, भारत ने अब 3 सूत्र तय कर दिए हैं। पहला, भारत पर आतंकी हमला हुआ, हम अपने तरीके से, अपनी शर्तों पर, अपने समय पर जवाब देंगे। दूसरा, कोई भी न्यूक्लियर ब्लैकमेल भारत नहीं सहेगा। तीसरा, हम आतंक की सरपरस्त सरकार और आतंक के आकाओं को अलग अलग नहीं देखेंगे। दुनिया भी भारत के इस नए रूप को, इस नई व्यवस्था को समझते हुए ही आगे बढ़ रही है।
भारत माता की! भारत माता की!
साथियों, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर का एक एक क्षण भारत की सेनाओं के सामर्थ्य की गवाही देता है। इस दौरान हमारी सेनाओं का कोऑर्डिनेशन वाकई में कहूंगा शानदार था। आर्मी हो, नेवी हो या एयरफोर्स, सबका तालमेल बहुत जबरदस्त था। नेवी ने समुद्र पर अपना दबदबा बनाया, सेना ने बॉर्डर पर मजबूती दी और भारतीय वायुसेना ने अटैक भी किया और डिफेंड भी किया। बीएसएफ और दूसरे बलों ने भी अद्भुत क्षमताओं का प्रदर्शन किया है।
इंटीग्रेटेड एयर एंड लैंड कॉम्बैट सिस्टम ने शानदार काम किया और यही तो है जॉइंटनेस। ये अब भारतीय सेनाओं के सामर्थ्य की एक मजबूत पहचान बन चुकी है। साथियों, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर में मैन पावर के साथ ही मशीन का कोऑर्डिनेशन भी अद्भुत रहा है। भारत के पारंपरिक एयर डिफेंस सिस्टम हो, जिन्होंने अनेक लड़ाइयां देखी हैं, या फिर आकाश जैसे हमारे मेड इन इंडिया प्लेटफॉर्म हो, इनको एयर 400 जैसे आधुनिक और सशक्त डिफेंस सिस्टम ने अभूतपूर्व मजबूती दी है। एक मजबूत सुरक्षा कवच भारत की पहचान बन चुकी है। पाकिस्तान की लाख कोशिश के बाद भी हमारे एयरबेस हो या फिर हमारे दूसरे डिफेंस इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, इन पर आंच तक नहीं आई और इसका श्रेय आप सभी को जाता है और मुझे गर्व है आप सब पर। बॉर्डर पर तैनात हर सैनिक को जाता है। इस ऑपरेशन से जुड़े हर व्यक्ति को उसका श्रेय जाता है। साथियों, आज हमारे पास नई और कटिंग एज टेक्नोलॉजी का ऐसा सामर्थ्य है जिसका पाकिस्तान मुकाबला नहीं कर सकता। बीते दशक में एयरफोर्स सहित हमारी सभी सेनाओं के पास दुनिया की श्रेष्ठ टेक्नोलॉजी पहुंची है, लेकिन हम सब जानते हैं नई टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ चुनौतियां भी उतनी ही बड़ी होती हैं। कॉम्प्लिकेटेड और सोफिस्टिकेटेड सिस्टम को मेंटेन करना, उन्हें एफिशिएंसी के साथ ऑपरेट करना, एक बहुत बड़ी स्किल है। आपने टैक को टैक्टिक्स से जोड़कर दिखा दिया है। आपने सिद्ध कर दिया है कि आप इस गेम में दुनिया में बेहतरीन है। भारत की वायुसेना अब सिर्फ हथियारों से ही नहीं, डेटा और ड्रोन से भी दुश्मन को छकाने में माहिर हो गई है। साथियों, पाकिस्तान की गुहार के बाद भारत ने सिर्फ अपनी सैन्य कार्रवाई को स्थगित किया है। अगर पाकिस्तान ने फिर से आतंकी गतिविधि या सैन्य दुस्साहस दिखाया तो हम उसका मुंह तोड़ जवाब देंगे। ये जवाब अपनी शर्तों पर अपने तरीके से देंगे और इस निर्णय की आधारशिला इसके पीछे छिपा विश्वास आप सबका धैर्य, शौर्य, साहस और सजगता है। आपको ये हौसला, ये जुनून, ये जज्बा ऐसे ही बरकरार रखना है। हमें लगातार मुस्तैद रहना है, हमें तैयार रहना है, हमें दुश्मन को याद दिलाते रहना है, ये नया भारत है। ये भारत शांति चाहता है, लेकिन अगर मानवता पर हमला होता है तो ये भारत युद्ध के मोर्चे पर दुश्मन को मिट्टी में मिलाना भी अच्छी तरह जानता है। इसी संकल्प के साथ आइए एक बार फिर बोले, भारत माता की, भारत माता की, भारत माता की, वंदे 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 वंदे। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
That was being conveyed then, and this, General Iyer, I think is an extension of that. What would you say?
Absolutely, absolutely. I would also like to compare with what was happening across the border. How many times did you see the Pak so-called authority, meeting? Though I don't think the Prime Minister carries any authority.
Thought there, we are putting out these shots of the Prime Minister's visit to the Adampur Air Base. Let's take a look if we can get an audio up on these visuals. All right, this is the Prime Minister. Okay. Resonating sounds, Vande Mataram, Bharat Mata Ki Jai by the Prime Minister and the armed force personnel. Very, very important moment as the Prime Minister made it a point to visit the Adampur Air.
भारत माता की। जब हम सूरज उगा देते हैं तो दुश्मन को दिखाई देता है भारत माता की जय। जब हमारी फौजें न्यूक्लियर ब्लैकमेल की धमकी की हवा निकाल देती हैं तो आकाश से पाताल तक एक ही बात गूंजती है, भारत माता की जय। साथियों, वाकई आप सभी ने कोटि कोटि भारतीयों का सीना चौड़ा कर दिया है। हर भारतीय का माथा गर्व से ऊंचा कर दिया है। आपने इतिहास रच दिया है। और मैं आज सुबह सुबह आपके बीच आया हूं आपके दर्शन करने के लिए। जब वीरों के पैर धरती पर पड़ते हैं तो धरती धन्य हो जाती है। जब वीरों के दर्शन का अवसर मिलता है तो जीवन धन्य हो जाता है। और इसलिए मैं आज सुबह सुबह ही आपके दर्शन करने के लिए यहां पहुंचा। आज से अनेक दशक बाद भी जब भारत के इस पराक्रम की चर्चा होगी तो उसके सबसे प्रमुख अध्याय
आप और आपके साथी होंगे। आप सभी वर्तमान के साथ ही देश की आने वाली पीढ़ियों की और उनके लिए भी नई प्रेरणा बन गए हैं। मैं वीरों की इस धरती से आज एयरफोर्स, नेवी और आर्मी के सभी जाबाजों, बीएसएफ के अपने शूरवीरों को सैल्यूट करता हूं।
भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय!
आपके पराक्रम की वजह से आज ऑपरेशन सिंदूर की गूंज हर कोने में सुनाई दे रही है। इस पूरे ऑपरेशन के दौरान हर भारतीय आपके साथ खड़ा रहा। हर भारतीय की प्रार्थना आप सभी के साथ रही। आज हर देशवासी अपने सैनिकों, उनके परिवारों के प्रति कृतज्ञ है, उनका ऋणी है। साथियों, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर कोई सामान्य सैन्य अभियान नहीं है। ये भारत की नीति, नियत और निर्णायक क्षमता की त्रिवेणी है। भारत बुद्ध की भी धरती है और गुरु गोविंद सिंह जी की भी धरती है। गुरु गोविंद सिंह जी ने कहा था, 1.25 लाख से एक लड़ाऊं, चिड़ियन ते मैं बात तुड़ाऊं, तबे गुरु गोविंद सिंह नाम कहाऊं। अधर्म के नाश और धर्म की स्थापना के लिए शस्त्र उठाना, ये हमारी परंपरा है। इसलिए जब हमारी बहनों, बेटियों का सिंदूर छीना गया, तो हमने आतंकियों के फन को उनके घर में घुस के कुचल दिया।
भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय!
वो कायरों की तरह छिप कर आए थे, लेकिन भूल गए उन्होंने जिसे ललकारा है वो हिंद की सेना है।